Oh, chat.
Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, is my co-host Tyler. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good to be here, man. Good to be here. Appreciate Paul Castro. I just saw in the chat. That's right, Anthony. I would never be late. It's not my fault.
No, this was not Tyler's fault at all. I'll explain in a second. But first, I want to introduce our illustrious guest joining us from all the way on the other side of the world. Couldn't be happier to have him back on the show. Mr. AOS Shorts himself. It's Dan Street. What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, going well? Glad to
Uh,
be here.
hey, we're glad to have you. That is for sure. We are going
How
to be
about you,
talking
Vince?
about.
I'm excited to be in the presence of a Warhammer hero,
That's right. That's right. We all are. We all are
a bona fide hero.
bona fides over here. That's right. Uh, we're all blessed to share the screen with Dan. We know that. So today we're going to talk about scenarios and rules or battle plans or whatever you want to call them. That's what we're going to talk about. The GHB stuff, the battle pack we're going to all be playing under over the next year. Now, quick story as to why we were late. When I joined this call and we started, which is we always start a few minutes early, all of a sudden the meeting told me this meeting is limited to an hour because now that's what we've been using Google Meet for this. And all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, Google Meet's limited to an hour now." And this call will just end if you don't pay us money. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that. So then we tried to do a Skype thing, but couldn't do that. So, anyways, this week I figured some stuff out. It's fine. The show's not going to end after an hour. But in the future, screw you, Google Meet. Okay, that's all I'm saying. That is some ridiculous nonsense you are peddling there. Uh, Give me a break. Okay. So, at any rate, uh,
Perfect
here we
timing.
are.
Yep.
They are definitely trying to grab some objectives. They have a battle plan to get money out of my wallet. It is not going to work. It will fail. That's what I'll say. So we're gonna go through the normal stuff tonight. We're back to the normal cadence, I guess we'll say. So let's start with the news. We have almost none.
Yeah, basically nothing. So I think you mentioned we may not even have an image of what is probably clearly a 40K thing, which I certainly have no idea. Looked like maybe Astra Militarum, if anybody cares.
Sure, it was a 40K thing.
Yeah, so we could probably just move right along. And we have a Saturday preview happening. I think they said starts at 5 p.m. British.
Yep.
So that's what, 12
Yeah, noon
Eastern?
noon Eastern. Yeah, this Saturday.
Yep. So what do you guys think we're going to see?
The Stormcast and Swamp Boggler's book and the rest of the figs for those.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right? I mean, that's what it is.
Seems pretty
Right?
straightforward. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I just realized
Yeah.
my microphone was too far away.
Okay.
Yeah, those two things. I mean, Dan, what are the units you want to see out of the Stormcast? Let's talk about what matters here.
Oh, haven't we seen all of them?
I don't think so. We're supposed
Didn't
to
they
see
preview
more.
them all?
So,
No.
The ridiculous chariot and various other things.
First of all, I completely agree the chariot's ridiculous. Thank you.
It is 100% ridiculous. It should stay in the old world.
Yes.
Anyway,
Especially not for the Stormcast, who have like this like Magitech Ultra Forge and a city in a space station. Yet they're coming out with normal chariots. Lame. Should have been a tank. Should have been a tank. All I'm saying. They should have
Forge
rolled out
World,
with tanks.
Custodes tank.
Yeah, like absolutely, it should have been a Stormcast tank, or I would have also accepted a Stormcast Dreadnought for like where souls that have been reforged too many times and can't go be a person again. They stick them into it like a big mechanical grungy made Dreadnought. I would have absolutely accepted that.
yeah. Still looking for what was the keyword? Drakes, I think. Looking
Yeah, I
for
want to see them
those.
Dragon Riders. That's what I
little
want. I want
Dragon Riders.
Stormcast riding like
Yeah.
Drake, Dragon, Draconian, Dracothian things. More of that, but like winged versions.
Yeah.
Then you can get some Dracoth riders on foot. You can have the Dragon Riders in the sky. Beautiful. Star Drake leading it up. Yes.
Yeah.
now,
100%.
now who has Dracothian's tail? You freaking Seraphon, huh? Who's got it now? You keep the tail. We got the whole body. That's what I'm saying. So
Voice
yes.
of Mork. That might be a thing. I think
What?
that was in the latest little story that they did.
Yeah, I mean
You
the
guys catch
book will
that?
be all of the war clans because obviously they'll be part of
Yeah.
the bigger war clans book, which I'm not excited about. I don't. I just like I again, as I said last week.
Yeah.
Please, GW, just phone it in on the Iron Jaws part. I
Yeah.
don't
We're
want any work done. No work needs to be done here.
cannot improve on perfection.
You have reached perfection. Stop. Just
Yes.
stop. In fact, you could even just remove the sub factions, and I'd be fine. We can just go basically straight Iron Jaws, no sub factions, existing command traits and artifacts. We've got a winner. I need nothing more.
It's so good. You haven't lived until you ran 2 cabbages in 3.0.
There you go. That's right. That's how we do it. Yeah.
So yeah, pretty short. You want to do some events, particularly since we got the man himself
Yes,
here.
I do. I do want to bring up the events because this is actually, we have all of the people responsible for this little spreadsheet in front of me in this
Yeah.
call. I'm going to let you two talk through this.
Yeah. So Mr. Shorts, we've been working on aosevents.org. In case anybody had seen it, yeah, it's a calendar of all the events happening that we at least know of around the world each month. And we got a lot going on here in July. Dan, probably should have ran this by you first. You might let me know if I've missed anything in July. Hopefully, this got about everything. Call to Arms. I assume that's still happening this weekend.
Yeah, Call to Arms is still happening. It won't be affected by sort of local COVID issues down in Wellington, so that's going ahead. That will be still AOS 2. That's over both of the days. It's interesting going through July. I think Call to Arms Warlords in the EU, I don't think is going ahead anymore. Then we've got Brishammer. That'll also be under AOS 2. They've got a long-standing policy of not playing anything without an FAQ.
Yeah.
I think Grand Clash might be AOS 3. So that would be the first.
Yeah, I was trying to determine that. I couldn't. Figure out what they were doing, but it's going to be a big event. It looked like up to 100 players.
Yeah, they've got 60 before. Last year, I think they're regularly the largest event in Canada. And then we'll definitely get some AOS 3 events on the weekend of the 17th with Circle City Clash and Renegade Open, and War Under the Mountain will be AOS 3. It's going to be a busy July.
Absolutely. Yeah. That last one there, Element Games is doing their event at Carnage. I wanted to give a shout out. So I'm helping out Jeff Nauman, a good friend, with Siege World coming up in August. A little point of privilege here. Just told him I wanted to make sure I mention it. He's got a few spots left, so if anybody's interested. Unfortunately, it's overlapping with NashCon this year, and I'm taking a lot of grief every week from Polcastro, Vince, and others about not making NashCon this year.
I mean, yay on the event. I want it to be nothing but successful, of course. It's not any judgment on the event. Boo on you having to not be able to go to NashCon. That's the boo here.
Yeah. So yes, same dates. I think August. I'm gonna get this. Let me look at make sure I get this right. August 21st to the 22nd. Yeah, Collinsville, Illinois. So 2-day GT 3.0. Yeah, maybe if any folks can't make it to NashCon, coming out to Illinois, it's gonna be a good time. Jeff always runs an amazing event. He's really good at his scoring system and everything. So.
Which we'll talk about some scenarios for 3.0 and some scoring systems tonight, gentlemen.
Indeed.
That is on the docket. Because there's a lot to unpack there. I think we got some big stuff. But yeah, good events. I really can't wait until we start seeing some AOS 3 events. I mean, obviously, it's funny because we're in this limbo where the book's not out. Like, the stuff hasn't actually released. And I saw some people saying, like, why can't I find a place to go get everything? And why aren't the FAQs out? I'm like, because the game hasn't released yet, you know?
Yeah, you may have played 5 games of AOS 3 already, but it is still not out.
It's not technically out. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
By the way, we're thinking Friday for the facts.
Well, I guess this is a sort of piece of news. They took down all the old facts, so all the old FAQs are gone. Barring like the base guide and the underworld stuff, like the things that have nothing to do with the AOS 3.0, right? The things that would still be perma-green are still there. And they had a little oopsie doozy because they accidentally re-uploaded the Beasts of Chaos old version.
Yeah.
But it was set to like 7/2, okay, to like July 2nd.
Yeah.
So assumingly that's when they're going to drop the FAQs, because they messed up the scheduling on one of them and pointed it toward the wrong file,
Yeah.
right? And everybody was like, "What does this mean? They're not going to update the FAQ?" No, no. Obviously, they're not just putting back up the Age of Sigmar 2 FAQ,
Yeah.
right? So
I think the thing that led to the sort of questioning there was that it had already, the actual wording on the FAQ, not just the file name, had already been updated to July 2021, but they hadn't changed the text.
Right.
So sort of much bleating and gnashing of teeth.
And then they immediately took it back down because it was like clear that it wasn't supposed to be up. So,
Yeah.
Yes. Oopsie. We had a little oopsie doodle. So there we go. I assume that we'll have them all switched for their new versions on 7.2. That would be my hope. That'd be great. It'd be great if we had them there. So when they said they'll be launching around the time of the release, we all just assumed the worst. And it was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
It's going to be later.
At some point later.
Could be a day earlier. That would also be true. We just sort of assumed the negative. So
I see there Ridge. So Ridge said he and Jordan with Season of War, they're going to Circle City Clash, and it's going to be AOS 2. So, yeah, good luck, man.
Okay.
There you go. Okay. Well, I will be interested to see when we get those 3.0 events happening. There's a lot of things happening on July 17th and 18th, and I know we all want to wait for an FAQ, but at the same time, it's like, let's not.
Let's get going.
Why? Just get into it. Get amongst it. Let the goblins accidentally hit for 64 attacks doing 1,000,000 mortal wounds. Like, it's fun.
Or put 11 spells through a spell portal.
It's fun. Yeah. What, are you going to wait a whole month after the game to play in a tournament? No. Come on. Get the new rules up. What are we doing here? This isn't like, what, are you worried about your score? Like, this isn't chess. Okay? Like, get out of here. Come on now. Come on now. All right. So I think that's all the news. If they do, if the thing on Saturday is really, really good, I'll press gang Tyler into doing a show, and if he's not available, I'll just come on and ramble myself about it. Okay. All right. So let's talk about some pick of the week. Move quickly here. Yeah. Pick of the week. Dan, what would you like to share with everybody, my friend?
Excellent, and I don't know if you shared it out last week, but the Texan cheat sheet for AOS 3 will be my pick of the week.
Very nice.
The handy PDF, now version 1.5, I believe, with pretty much all you need to know for the AOS 3 rules on 2 pages.
Yep.
That's a great pick.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I will share that out because I think it is very, very good.
I think that was the Austin Weird Knobs Gaming Club in appropriately Austin, Texas. Yeah, they're part of the Texas Masters. Yeah, a whole bunch of clubs down there. Yeah, really, really awesome.
And I will say, having played more games now with my cheat sheet handy, it does just make everything so much faster, especially for picking battle tactics. Because I just, you set it up so you're like, boop, 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 boop. You just walk down, you're like, okay, this is our command points. Yep, general's still alive, gained that. Don't need to rally. Okay, then, this is going to be my tactic for the turn, and then I go back to doing whatever I was going to do otherwise, right? Cast spells or whatever, so.
Yeah.
Fast and easy. Awesome. Good pick. I like it. I will link it below after the show. Tyler, you have a bunch of picks. You did send those to me in advance, so they are already linked in the description, so.
Got my limit of 3, so.
It's fine. You stole one of mine, so I picked something else. It's okay.
Okay. 2 very appropriate to tonight. We had the Honest Wargamers chat this week about JHB 21 battle plans. So it was really good, long discussion with the gang over there. And then same thing, Ever Chosen Podcast. Again, guys in Texas, they did an excellent podcast this week on the battle plans, just kind of going through them, all their thoughts. They're a bunch of competitive players. And then I really loved Russ Veal's article today on the Khorne faction spotlight on Warhammer community. It was some useful information about how to, in particular, play Khorne Mortals in 3.0, all the different ways you can get sort of overlapping abilities, +1 attack here, +1 attack from over there, that sort of thing. Really, really nice little article.
Nice. Awesome. Good picks. Like I said, all already linked below. My link will actually be a little more self serving. There is a fantastic, what I've linked down below is a fantastic campaign review of Reign in Hell. And it's actually a nice, really detailed review of sort of the campaign system and everything in there. It's pretty great. It's already, again, that one is already linked down below. It's by a gentleman named Cement Sol, and it's really nice. Like, goes through building his warband and kind of the whole shooting match. So if you were interested in Reign in Hell and you haven't jumped yet and you want some more like really detailed information about it beyond everything we've talked about, do check out that video from Cement Sol. I thought it was really thorough. So and I was happy to see him do it. It sounded like he really enjoyed it, which thumbs up. Reign in Hell, the book is back up. It's available now. Link is always down below if you're interested in checking out some miniatures agnostic, brutal, fast, campaign-based skirmish action. All right, gentlemen. Let's talk about some hobby time. So, Tyler, you got some games in, right?
Yeah. I had my first test with Sylvaneth. So last night it was a slogfest, as I was a little worried about with Sylvaneth and 3.0. So let me try to give you some highlights of the game. It was really interesting, actually. So I played against a Tough as Nails Legion of the First Prince list.
Okay.
With Bellicor, Verminlord Deceiver, with the 5-up doing Mortals.
Sure. Standard kit out.
Ether Mortals, yep. Skid a Leap, Warp Lightning Vortex. You skid a Leap to then potentially do Warp Lightning Vortex. You've got Kairos that can help. He had Kairos as well, doing all of his tricks.
Just all the nonsense, sure.
All the nonsense. Really strong list. Yeah, just Khorne Demon Prince to top it off, who I've told you I absolutely despise. Yeah, that. So he apparently in Legion of the First Prince, if anybody didn't know, this might be coming your way soon. He can be a 2+ save rerolling through the Armor of the Pact or something like that, some artifact. Yeah. So
I don't see a problem here. Seems fine to me.
Sure. So I was doing a grab bag list with the trees, just trying out a little bit of everything. Had Warsong Revenant, of course. Chalice. Well, I'm going to go all the details, but kind of kitted out Chalice, Gnaw Roots. Had Cogs and Spitestorm Hive. Wasn't trying out Spell Portal. Wanted to see how it went. A lot of folks are talking about Warsong Revenant with Spell Portal, in particular with Unleash Swarm of Spites, to do the AoE Mortal Wounds to the Spell Portal. Yeah, so I wanted to try it out without that this game. Had him, Durthu, with -3 Rend Sword. So you can take Daith's Reaper, which we never took with the second book. I don't even think it was in the first book. The thought being that if you can find -3 Rend in 3.0, you're going to want to take it.
Sure. Yeah.
And
it's an interesting trade-off.
Yeah.
You either take the -3 Rend or you take the +2 attacks.
The +2 attacks. Right. Because you could potentially Roar, which can help, on a 3+ turn off potentially the ability to stack against Rend. So yeah, that was one of the little debates I've been having. Greenwood Gladius with the +2 attacks or Daith's Reaper. So. And then we had, anyway, so those kind of, I had Dry Chest trying to hurt as well. Some bows, some swords, etc. So one of the main things immediately stood out, like one of the things we were always finding with Sylvaneth in 2019 to 2020, if you were not playing Dreadwood, you might struggle just to play on objectives and get around the board in terms of getting your trees out. And I think that might still be the case. Okay. So I kind of had this debate, is a True Lord Ancient, who is quite expensive now, still going to be almost an auto-include if you don't if you're not in Dreadwood. So that was the first
or if
thing.
you don't have a Lariel or something insane.
What's that?
I said, or if you don't have a Lariel or something insane like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where you're metamorphosizing heroes into forests, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. Potentially you could do that. But yeah, there's still a lot of risk that you get, if you're not a 1-drop, and if you are in 1-drop going against another, you lose the tie. Someone outdrops you, they take first, they get an unbind range.
Sure.
And then there's plenty of spellbounds out there that could potentially, shut off your ability to get any woods out. So I think the True Lord Ancient might still be an auto-include in a lot of lists. Warsong Revenant was insane. You just got to get even 1 throne with the Chalice, 3 dice, pick the 2 highest, and the built-in +1 to cast, Dispel and Unbind. I mean, Kairos half the game, couldn't do anything. It was like 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s on cast rolls with a war song, doing up to 3 casts. So yeah, it was a really close game. It snuck it out in round 5, but that first one, I think Sylvaneth have a lot of play in this new edition. Is kind of the long and short of it.
Sure. Well, I think we'll get into the tempo and the feeling of it. I honestly think that a lot of armies will have more play, just because of the nature of how the game's changed. It's really interesting. There's a few minor things that are pushing stuff around, and we'll get into it, I'm sure. Dan, what about you? What have you been hobbying on? You got any games in yet? Have you played some 3.0? You've been painting anything? What are you doing?
No games in yet. We've had a lot of late night sport on, so I've been doing a lot of building. So Lumineth Endless Spells, Warsong Revenant for an event at the end of July. We're going to have a 1-day on OS3 rules where I'm going to take the trees along. So I need a Warsong Revenant for that. Built a Celestin Prime, built Yndrasta from the Dominion box.
Nice.
The Realm Shaper engine, a whole load of random stuff that I just had. 3 Stegodons, 2 Bastiladons, whole load of random stuff I just had in boxes. I just sat and built whilst watching football. So it's been a good month.
Nice. Nice.
Sweet.
For myself, I did get another game in. It was a good time. Got my Slaves to Darkness out. I actually ended up playing some Night Haunt. I learned that Chain Rasps in Reichnor's new thing are not to be, with all of their like buff heroes around them, are not to be underestimated. You know, when they're on like 3s re-rolling all, 3s re-rolling 1s, 2 attacks each on like 25 mil bases. He was like, okay, I'm going to have like 50,000 attacks against you here. And I was like, whoa, what? Hold on. What? What was that number? And then he went through the bonuses, and I was like, oh, I have... Because I chose to fight with like something else first than the Chaos Knights, I had charged into the Chain Rasps. And then after that, I suddenly realized I have made a horrible mistake.
Indeed.
As then there were like no Chaos Knights left. So, anyways, you live and learn. I was very angry with myself for a lot of that
black
game.
coach still at 220. That's
it was in the game. It did
it's even
some
harder
work.
now. Yeah.
It took me way too much effort to kill that stupid thing.
So frustrating. Yeah.
I did eventually
it's
kill
a great
it.
piece.
Has Smashbat smashed yet? Not in 3.0. I've played the army a couple times under 2.0, but I'll get it out under 3.0. I'm only 4 games into 3.0, so. And then I'm also, on the painting table, we're working on Kragnos here, big Craggy. He's coming together. I'm trying to do him to an extraordinarily high level, so he is taking forever, and I am quickly losing my patience with that. Just too much stuff on my table that needs to get painted, but here we are. Anyways, yeah. So, okay, cool. Well, we're going to talk about, I'm sure, our experiences in playing some of these 3.0 games, or what we think is going to happen is going to come up here now. Because there you go. Guess what? It's time to talk scenarios. All right, so let me bring up, there we go. Let's bring up the correct PowerPoint here. General's Handbook, Pitched Battles, 2021. Scenarios and special rules. Let's start at the high level before we get into it. As always, Dan, what's your initial take on GHB 2021? You excited about this battle pack? You think it's going to do some work? What do you think? Do you like the fact that we're now going seasonal, where we're in only Ghur this season, and assumingly next year we'll be in a different realm? What's your take?
Yes to all of that. Yes. Seasonal gives the option to have a sort of tighter set of defined battle packs. I like the idea of a sort of solid battle pack concept. So here is all the elements. We've considered the interplay between all of them. It's just sort of pick up and go for tournament organizers, and you can slot in the bits that you want if you want to be different. But here is vanilla, balanced match play. So I like that. The overall impressions of the battle pack that we're going to be talking about today is that we do have a game where games are going to go longer. So you're going to be fighting right through to round 5 with more paths to victory. So you're not going to be approaching the game and go, right, after 2 turns, I'm out. I've lost this. I'll give up. There's multiple paths to come back in. And when we get onto the sort of weighting between objective scoring versus secondary scoring, you'll really see that you don't need to play for the objectives in some scenarios. You'll be able to win on secondaries. So really interested to see that. With the combination of the changes in the core rules, meaning greater interactivity in opponents' turns, the people that are going to win are the real good tabletop generals that can stay engaged for 2 and 3/4 hours, switched on all the way through. So it's going to be mentally draining at the end of 3 games on a single day. You're going to be
I've already rolled
mentally
out
fatigued.
Sylvaneth, getting back into Sylvaneth for 5 rounds, 2 days. That's not happening. There's no way.
This is where the Sons of Bama players shine. They're like, I got 4 rules to remember. I'm in the game completely. Easy. Easy.
Decision fatigue will be a thing.
And it really is.
It's going to be interesting to see in those first few events how many games get to time in 2 hours, 3/4, given the amount of decision making you're making along the way.
Yeah.
Tyler, what's your take overall?
Yeah, one thing you said, Dan, that stood out, that games will tend to go longer. I think that's right. I could see that we might have more frequency around 2 situations. You're either blown off the board early, or the game will go pretty long. Like I think we'll still have a lot of matchups where, I mean, obviously player skill will come into play where this will happen, regardless of whatever army is on the table. But yeah, someone will maybe still get doubled, then just get ran over in round 2, let's say, or that 2 to 3.
The disincentive for the player that is sort of piloting the steamroller, as it were, is you're giving up battle tactics. And if battle tactics are going to be one of the main determinative factors in terms of tie breaks between players on similar scores at events or otherwise, you actually want to prolong your opponent's pain. You want to keep them in the game because you want to be maximizing secondary scoring.
Wow, I hadn't thought about that.
Even as the powerful army, you want it to go 5 turns to run up the scoreboard.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah. Yeah, overall, really excited about this battle pack. I love the idea of playing in a realm for a season. We'll see how long. I mean, presumably it's going to be a year, 6 months to a year. And yeah, I think they did a nice job with realms of Ghur Rules that we're getting. We'll have to see how seismic shift works, which we'll get into what that is. But in terms of burning an objective, potentially you have the choice in round 3 if you go second. And it's not on all of them, but it's in some of them. I think that can have a sizable impact. Obviously, monsters with this one. I think there's some counterbalance. We'll get into whether it's enough in terms of the value of monsters with this. But yeah, I think it's a nice mix of missions. It's the tournament scoring system is pretty unclear to me right now, which again we'll talk about more.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love the idea of setting it in a single realm for a season. I think that we finally hit on the right way to do realm rules. Took us the entirety of AOS, but we got there.
Yeah, this feels right. Yeah.
Caleb, the answer is no. It's in 19 something 1 or 2. I don't remember exactly which, but it's in the core rules. The answer is no. And then, Jack said my first GHB 2021 game took over 4 hours, though that was about having to constantly look up new rules and battle tactics. Yeah, it's funny because my games have all been faster. Okay. And now, admittedly, like I said, I mean, I've had cheat sheets for everybody who's at my table, right? And so we're just literally going down the cheat sheet to make decisions, like boom, 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 right? And I think once you sort of, like, the hero phase decisions, pretty straightforward, right? And then it gets to the, do I, like, your enemy moves. Okay, do I need to redeploy? No, I'm good, right? Like, it's, once you kind of internalize the decision points, they tend to happen fast, right? Because you take, like, the hero actions. Okay, only one hero gets to do it. If you've got somebody who's injured and you want them to live, you're just going to default to the healing one, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you don't need to dispel, right, then you're basically just going to end up picking, I'll try for a command point.
Right.
Which, I did enjoy. I think I made 8 rolls at a command point during the game I played. I officially got 0 of them with my general on the table. So
Well done.
8 4+s failed. Good times.
Yep.
Um, but at any rate, yeah, I will say that I think once you, my expectation would be the first couple games you will probably be longer, especially if you're not using like a cheat sheet or something. Okay, to kind of remember everything.
Tokens are going to be really valuable this edition.
And then if you are, well, yeah, I have my little magnet, as I've talked about many times. I have the ultimate solution for this. Tokens are nonsense. No, I have a dry erase marker, like a fine tip dry erase marker, and you can buy tiny fridge magnets. They're 1 inch by 1.5 inches. Okay, and I have a stack of them, literally sitting next to the table, and one of them already has finest hour written on it. And then whatever bonuses I get, +1 to hit, +1 to wound, whatever's going on, whatever bonuses and penalties, I just write it on there with a dry erase marker and set it next to the guy. I need no special tokens. I need one little tiny magnet, and it's easy. And then you don't forget anything. And when you're done, you just go, wipe it off. It's so easy.
Yeah, Richie and you've been talking. That's what he does with. Yeah, I've been seeing that in his Just Play series.
The little fridge magnets are the way to go. You can get like 200 of them for a couple dollars off of Amazon or whatever. Anyways,
the thing that I'd say there about the cheat sheets is the important thing is often having that decision tree is not just what your options are, but in a reminder of in what scenario you want to use it. So the sort of questions you ask yourself. So then is someone injured or whatever? Because otherwise you still get that sort of list of 5, and if you haven't played in a month or however long, you've lost that sort of muscle memory of what factors you're taking into account when you're choosing which one.
Yeah. Sort of the more I think that's exactly right. The more you internalize this sort of decision tree, the faster everything gets, right? Because it's the same decisions you're making over and over and over again every round. Who's gonna roar? Who's gonna just stomp for some extra mortal wounds? Who needs to self heal? That kind of thing, right? That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's pretty straightforward. Okay. Awesome. So let's get into the actual stuff here. Let's talk about the basics first. So the rules of playing in Ghur. All right, and this is where we get to the special rules, because it's effectively the equivalent of our old realm rules, but this time we only get one of them. Right? That's the trick. We're getting one realm. This is where the games are set. Now, I will say you don't have to use these. That's really important to understand off the rip. There is a basic set of matched play rules in the core book, and that comes with full grand strategies and battle tactics and everything. You could just use that and ignore all this crap. Okay, and that's fine. And I do wonder in my head if we're gonna see some people do that, ignore this stuff and just go for the basics. I really do have that question. I will be interested to see. I think events for the most part, out of the rip, are just going to use this because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But I'll be interested to see over time if some of this stuff doesn't get annoying. And we'll talk about it when we go through the show, because I have some feelings. I've got some opinions because I've played under both.
Strong feelings.
I would call them medium strong at this point. They're not refined enough. 2 under the basic match play rules and 2 under the Ghur rules, which is what I've played so far, is not really enough to form a strong opinion, right? It's enough to form a medium opinion. Got to leave that on the grill a little longer. So it's like chicken. You don't want a pink center on that opinion. Not at all. That's not good. Okay. So your basic rules: predators and prey. Once per battle round, you score 1 additional victory point if any enemy monsters were slain in that battle round. Okay, cool. So, there's a lot of incentive to use monsters. This is the incentive to fight against the monsters and kill them, right? You get bonus victory points. And we can talk over time about what that all means. Seismic shift. At the start of the 3rd battle round, after the players roll off to determine who has the first turn, the player taking the 2nd turn in the battle round can pick 1 objective marker on the battlefield and remove it from play. Woo! Gentlemen, yeah. I just read the most single impactful thing that will be happening in games, period. There is no rule written in the core rules or any army book that is going to be as impactful to who wins the game as this thing. That is my argument. What do you think?
Any thoughts, Dan?
So this applies in how many scenarios are we dealing with? 12 battle plans. So this applies in 8 of the 12 battle plans, because 4 of them, or 7.5, because 4 of them have prime objectives, so can't be subject to this rule, and they can't be removed.
Correct.
And another one has half prime objectives and half normal objectives. But yes, the ability to remove an objective and deny it from your opponent, or in the case of marking territory,
we're going to get there.
And instant win the game.
Yep.
Is powerful.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key. If we end up gravitating towards all of the prime objective scenarios, which, by the way, I don't think we will, for reasons we'll discuss when we get into
we'll have a mix.
Yeah, those. I really think this is just, like, crazy impactful to the overall game. Crazy impactful.
So I've played, 2 games so far where the outcome probably would have been different had it not been for who won the priority in round 3. And both of those games I probably would have lost if I had not gotten the ability to choose, ability to go second and choose. So the first one, I think we were playing a similar list of events on the same day. I was playing Night Hunt that day, and I had a little mistake that kind of got me behind the 8 ball with Iron Jaws, and he could have easily won that one if he had gotten that round 3 choice to burn. And same thing last night. I think it really so. Yeah, that it seems like it's going to have a considerable impact, but that's only 2 games that I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to really have a sense right now.
I want to answer a couple questions in the chat. Could we at a tournament use the battle tactics in the core book and the GHB? No, because there are some duplicates there, so it wouldn't make sense to have it. Like, you could customize some synergistic list, but I actually think that makes it worse. So we'll talk about that. One of the things I'm going to argue when we get to tactics here in a moment is that one of the reasons that this is worse is because there's more. The core rules have 6. You have to alternate. Core rules only give you 6. This gives you 8. It's too many. That's my argument.
Is it too many because it's too easy to choose 5 that are going to work?
Yep. There's always going to be 5. You almost have to design your list to suck.
Yeah.
Like, if you're the worst person at writing lists ever, I apologize. I'm sorry. Okay, it's cool. You're not going to be able to complete 5. Yeah. But in the basic ones in the core rules, it's sometimes a stretch. You get to the bottom of the barrel and you're like, oh geez, I really gotta. We're gonna have to stretch here a little. In these, both the games I played, every round I was like, yep, that's a slam dunk this turn, no problem, and I've achieved it. Right? It was never in question. It was never in question.
Most games so far have matched that, and thus it's been consequential when you fail to get one of your battle tactics. For whatever reason.
It's almost a surprise when you don't. Something goes horribly wrong, right? And then you're like you charge into some unit of 3 battle line guys with 2 monsters with impact hits. You roll 2 1s on their impact hits and don't do anything. And then you proceed to whiff with both of them, and one guy, or he rolls out of the box on saves, and one dude stays alive, and you're like, okay, well that was the 1.5% mathematical chance that occurred, right?
Sure.
So I guess just I lose this game. All right. So seismic shift, big deal. Realm Sphere magic is metamorphosis. Basically, you can take a hero and turn him into a monster. You give him the monster keyword. Very useful for if you're going to need to be achieving battle tactics. I think we'll keep metamorphosis in mind. Keep in mind, though, when you do that, it sticks until your next hero phase. So you're also creating risk, because if they then kill that hero is now worth a bonus VP to them. So little risk, little reward. Use it smartly. We'll talk about it in terms of the battle tactics when we get there, because that'll really kind of set the stage for that. And then Feral Roar. You can use this command ability at the start of the combat phase. The unit that receives this command must be a monster until the end of that phase. When you look up a value on that damage table, it is treated as if it has suffered 0 wounds. Sure, the important part to note there is that you cannot use it with all-out attack or all-out defense, which is often what you may want to be doing with your monster, and or getting any other combat phase-based command ability, of which there are like a million in the game.
Yeah.
So it's competing for the most valuable command ability timing, right?
Right.
Yeah. How does it work with the Indrasta? So the sort of I've not quite worked out how sort of overlapping negating effects work in AOS 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
So it uses basically it uses what's the right word, like last in first out or whatever, like LIFO I think is the system.
Last applied.
Yeah, last applied. Yeah, exactly. So technically she would already have applied hers because it's an aura that's just riding on them, and then if you use the command it would overwrite her ability. Is how it would seem to be from the core rules. I don't have the book in front of me, but there's an activated ability section that, like 1.6 something that covers this, and I as near as I can tell, that's how it would work. So,
I want to grab my book.
Yeah, go ahead. My answer is, it's fine. That's a fine command ability. It's cooler when you can just do it. Like if you're Avangori or whatever, and you can just do it, and you don't need the command ability, right? Or if you're Cheater Lumineth, and you can just have like a Stone Mage near your giant Cow Mountain, and so the Cow Mountain just gets to like be at the top of his profile because he's got a little buddy, those kinds of things, obviously. So
yeah.
All right. I think most of these are going to come into effect when we talk about the next sections. So, gentlemen, let's plow ahead here.
Yep.
Grand strategies. All right. The grand strategies. In the base book, there are 3. Okay? And they overlap with these completely. Okay? In this one, there are 8. Grand strategies are added to your army list. You actually put them onto your army list. It's what you're trying to complete. Okay? So it's not something you change battle to battle, round to round, etc. You pick a grand strategy, and that's what you've done.
Right.
So after you have picked your army, you must pick one grand strategy and record it on your army roster. First sentence. Okay? So, all right. Gentlemen, I'm going to burn through these real quick, and then we're going to discuss them. Okay? I'm just gonna rattle this off real fast. Here we go. Sever the head. You complete this grand strategy if there are no 0, nil, the null set heroes from your opponent's starting army on the battlefield. Hold the line. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are any, at least 1 or more, battle line units from your starting army on the battlefield. Vendetta. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if the model chosen to be your opponent's general has been slain and your general has not. Both chosen generals, meaning not bonus generals, chosen generals. Yep. Dominating Presence. You complete this grand strategy if there are more units from your starting army on the battlefield than there are units from your opponent's starting army. Beastmaster. When the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if there are any monsters from your starting army. Prize Sorcery. Any wizards from your starting army alive. Pillars of Belief. Any priests from your starting army alive. And Predator's Domain, also known as the one probably everybody will pick if you make the smooth brain choice, because it is the one that requires absolutely nothing, has nothing to do with the enemy army or achieving anything, and at the bottom of round 5 you just move any remaining troops you have onto any piece of terrain that's within range and you seize control of it. Because when the battle ends, you complete this grand strategy if you control more terrain features than your opponent.
Yeah, within 3 inches, I believe, to control the terrain feature.
You have to. It's other than that, it's objective control, right? It's you count as people and need to be on or within 3 inches. Yes.
Right.
All right, gentlemen. First of all, I hate that Predator's Domain exists. It's so stupid because what it's going to mean is that like in round 5, everybody just goes bah and jumps on buildings and forests and everything, because it is just the one that like doesn't matter what your enemy's doing, right? Or what they did or what's in their army. Like I would never ever pick Sever the Head. That is insane.
Sure.
It's insane.
Yeah. Yep. It's probably the worst one. Yeah.
Absolutely the worst one.
Can I just make 2 preliminary comments?
Hit me. Go.
One is that why do we care about grand strategies? We care about grand strategies because you get 3 victory points for completing it in each of the 12 battle plans. That you also care about it because if you are tied on victory points and tied on battle tactics, if you get your grand strategy and your opponent doesn't, then you get a minor victory. If you both get your grand strategies, then you get a draw. So that's why we care about grand strategies. My reaction to the list, Vince, was 3 victory points is a lot, so we care about them. But they seem everybody should be able to achieve them. Like if you've picked the right choice and actually put some thought into it, it should be easy to achieve. Either because you pick Predator's Domain, or you've got an easy option like you've got a million wizards, or you've got
right.
that you can run around, or you've got your your Sylvaneth, and I take an 80-point unit of Tree Revenants, which are battle line, and I just play 80 points down because I keep teleporting them around anywhere on the board, or I keep them in reserve until round 4 or whenever you have to put them on, and I only bring them on for 2 turns and just boop them around the place, and I get my 3 points.
Agreed completely. I think it's just like you put about, like, if you're playing a Skaven army and you have a Vermin Lord or 2 and Thankwol and a Gracier on foot and an Arch Warlock and a regular Warlock, it's like, okay, cool, I'll just take the Wizard one because one of those rats is going to live by the end of the game, right? You're not bringing down all of them.
No, one will be alive. So we have all of this and all of these different options, but people are just going to pick one and and effectively get it in 99% of their games.
So I hadn't noticed that before, Dan, that, the controlling of terrain is the same as objective control, except instead of 6 inches, it's 3 inches, which means that you can contest and then take control and then move away.
Yeah.
Right.
So that I had completely missed the ability to move away from that. Yeah, do that with your little teleporters during the game. Yeah, that's wild. Okay.
Yeah, you either do that or you pick the hold the line, and your tree revs are the ones that you keep alive.
The battle line. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hold the line feels like an easy choice for somebody like Ironjaws, where everything's battle line. Or if you're playing the 18 Ogre Gluttons army, it's like, well, good luck, I guess. You're probably not removing that. Or if you're playing Sons of Behemoth, where, like, basically hold the line is the destruction choice. It's like the destruction default choice. Hey, even my megas are battle line. And chances are you're not going to table me, probably. Like, tabling giants is actually kind of hard in the new edition, for reasons we'll talk about.
Please kill all 4 of them.
Yeah, please kill all 4 of my Mega Gargants. Good luck. Did I mention this one has like 40 wounds and a 5-up save? After save, sorry. It's like...
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, one of them's going to be alive. And they're all battle line. So, yeah, I agree. Like, and it's funny because I think the big challenge... I'll kind of spoil this now. I think the big challenge in this edition is going to be victories will often be 1 or 2 points apart. Now, that's not true for every scenario, okay? That's true for a set of scenarios that have a new scoring system, that uses the new scoring system, which 8 out of the 12 do, okay?
Yeah.
And I think in those scenarios, the scores when you win, you will be up by, like, 1.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the working conclusion that I mentioned earlier, that you may often fall into 2 states. You're either... your toys are taken off, maybe early, let's say early, round 2, round 3, 2.0 style. A lot of games in 2.0 were over, round 2, certainly by round 3. Or, it's going to go long and it's going to be close. That's generally been the case that I've experienced so far in 6 games. But
yeah, I mean, almost, like, my experience has been... Well, I'll save it. I'll save it for the I'll save it when we get a summary. My point is, if you choose the wrong grand strategy and duff it, you've almost instantly lost the game, I think, a lot of the time. Because my argument is games will be that close that if you give up the 3 points, you lost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So don't pick the wrong one. Don't foot fault before you start.
Yeah.
Right. Just pick the one that you reasonably know you have an easy way to accomplish, right? Like, I have 5 near immortal wizards. Okay, great. I'll pick that one.
Yeah.
Right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
That certainly would
Don't
help Predator's Domain. Sorry, Dan, if you had the requirement that you assess in round 5. Let's say, well, I guess you would have to, maybe you would assess at the bottom of round 5. I'm just thinking like that really does change Predator's Domain in my mind in terms of the ease of some list to achieve that as you're booping around the game and racking up your control. I mean, even if you're, well, anyway, there might be some situations, but yeah, go ahead, Dan. Oh,
I don't know if I had
Oh,
something
okay.
to go
No,
ahead on.
Okay,
I
sorry.
think you're right. Like Predator's Domain becomes the
Thought I interrupted
ultimate.
you.
Predator's Domain becomes the ultimate default.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like if you don't feel like you can take anything else, you take Predator's Domain, and your basic plan is in round 5, everybody runs for terrain. You retreat out of combat. You just run. You just everybody on a building go.
Yeah. Thinking about core rules and contesting, units only count as contesting or for checking for contesting on 1.
Correct.
If you have captured and then move away,
you still hold.
You still hold.
Until
You,
the enemy
you
takes.
still hold,
Yeah.
but you then can't. But
The
if
same
you've
unit.
held it, do you need to? You're not contesting it again. You've just held it. So can you then go contest another one?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
the
it
same
remains
unit.
under because you as the player control your units contest.
So my tree revenants hold something in my backfield, then they move off, and in the next turn they contest another one, and so they have contested a new terrain feature in the next round, gained control of it, and they have effectively gained control for me of 2 terrain features.
Correct.
And then the next turn they move off again.
They just
and they grab another one. Yep.
You've got these tree reps on like a world tour, and unless the enemy intentionally contests the terrain, which they can't do while they're contesting objectives with the same unit, right? Then at the end of the game, you'll just be like, "Ha! I accidentally won that one."
Why would you take anything other than Predator's Domain?
Because whoever goes in the bottom of 5 does have an incredible power to win it, right?
Yeah.
Like in the bottom of 5, you just have an incredible ability to grab the thing. Right?
Yeah. So I had a close game last night. I mean, my opponent chose Predator's Domain. He didn't have many units left. It went the full 5 rounds, and I guess we actually read it incorrectly, which may have impacted now thinking, we would have to
you can contest all game and start controlling it and then push them to
right, exactly. We weren't tracking that. So very well may have been the case that he would have had control over. I mean, that's just annoying.
Right, because suddenly you now have to like mark who's having each piece of terrain. I want to answer a few questions here. Does it remain a terrain feature if it's smashed to rubble by a monster as part of Monstrous Rampage? Yes. All scenery destruction crap that's in the game right now, from the most effective, which is the Gatebreaker Gargant, to the least effective, which is Monstrous Rampage. That includes the Severith Wind Fox, break your terrain. It includes the Idolaters, we smash your faction terrain because we despoil it. All of them that exist. Do not remove it from being a terrain feature, which is all that's required here. They might, most of them just remove scenery rules. Some of them, like the Giants one, actually remove keywords and replace it just with scenery rubble, but it's still a terrain feature. So, and then Chris, do we have a clear definition of what a terrain piece is for control? Do we have to keep track of control of every piece of scatter terrain? No, because they specifically say in the rules, scatter terrain does not count as terrain. It's just a thing that you put on the board to make it look pretty. They specifically give examples of what scatter terrain is and talk about sizes for terrain and what a terrain feature is. So
it's one of your 8 standard terrain features for the battle pack.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I mean, just to wrap this in terms of what, so Beastmaster stands out if you're running a lot of monsters.
I think it's terrible. People are going to be hunting after your monsters to get them VPs. I'd never take it.
Yeah.
Unless you're Archeon.
Archeon, right? Yeah.
And you're just like, look, guys, I'm on like a 2-up re-rolling this whole game with layers upon layer, and I'm just going to heal every round like 3d3. So I'm never going to die. So I guess I just auto-complete this or the wizard one. Right? Like, I just get those for free.
We're going to need to do an hour-and-a-half show just on Archeon and potential counters.
And why he's 100 points too cheap. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
So, let's see. Dominating presence, battle lines with this grand strat. If there are more units, MSU, maybe.
Never pick it. Never pick it, because you don't know what your opponent's going to show up with number of units. You
Sure.
can think you've got a lot, and then they show up with the gyrocopter spam army, and you're like,
or Sam Morgan's a million gutter runners and night runners or whatever.
right.
Like, just no.
You're
Don't
relying
even
on a
risk
win
it.
con totally out of your control.
Yeah, don't risk it.
Hold the line seems solid, all else equal. That's something you could potentially control a little bit in terms of,
Sure.
being a
Like I
scaredy
said, if
cat
you
with some
have
battle
the
line.
army where basically you're overrunning with solid battle line, and
Yeah.
like every unit, like again, Iron Jaws, Sons of Bahamut,
Yeah.
sure. To me, the argument here is between Hold the Line, Prize Sorcery, and Predator's Domain. Find the one of those three that work.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Vendetta, the model chosen by your opponent's general has been slain. The model chosen by your, that could still be a
Nope,
little
because
bit
again,
random.
somebody shows up against you with Archeon, and you're like, okay, well, never mind.
Archeon, Nagash.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like the only what hitting power do you have in your army that you're positive you can take out a Host Arcanum Archeon?
Right.
Yep.
Right.
That I'm not sure that hitting power exists in the game right now. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Like he might just be immortal.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I
I mean,
don't know.
after playing a Khorne Demon Prince last night, that was doing a good impression of a mini Archeon with his 2-up rerolling
Sure.
save nonsense. And I'm rocking with -3 rend and still sweating it to try to get some damage through. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not being funny. I legitimately am not sure there's anything in the game capable of killing him anymore.
Yeah.
Just because the nature of like certain things got sort of kneecapped. Like one of your biggest melee damage guys, like your Kumquat, your Ghoul King on Terrorgeist, right? He can't do all of his tricks anymore because he can't get the bonus. Well, at least, I mean, barring PDFs that come in 2 days to change stuff or whatever, he doesn't get all his tricks anymore. A lot of things like that happened, and he was already near immortal before.
Yeah.
And he's way more immortal now that he can just every hero phase, another D3, another D3, another D3, and in his own hero phase it's 2D3.
All right.
Right.
Kragnos popping off a 6 and a 6 or 6 and a 5.
Yeah, I mean that's your hope, right? Does Kragnos run into him and you double six it? It's like boom, got him. Like that's your hope,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is why focus on other battle tactics.
Yes, exactly. Like again, yeah.
Work on the win condition that does not involve you removing Archeon from the table.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, we talked about the FAQ on the Eye of Ed Sheeran in the Core Rules episode. I personally don't think there's actually any confliction right now between the Eye of Ed Sheeran and other rules because I don't think it's conflicting timing. I think one is predicated on the role and the other things are predicated on an unmodified role, and there's 2 different game states, 2 different triggers. I think that's clear based on the timing set up in 155 versus 164. But again, I can see why reasonable people would disagree. I'm sure they'll FAQ it. Job's a good one. Okay. Battle tactics. So, at the start of every round in your hero phase, you pick a battle tactic. You cannot pick the same battle tactic twice. All right. There are 8 of these. Many of these are very easy. Like, too easy.
Yeah.
And you get 2 points every round that you complete your battle tactic. This is really important because in the what we'll call the now standard scoring model, the most you can get off of objectives is 3 points. Now there are exceptions in plenty of scenarios. We'll talk about them, right? But assuming the standard scoring method, it's 3 points off the base, 2 points off this, 5 points total you earn per round. Now obviously 2 out of 5 points is a pretty big deal. Okay, so you want to get these. All right, again, go ahead.
The only thing I was going to add was these aren't just 2 points because many of them you get an extra VP if you achieve them with a monster.
There you go.
They can be up to 15 points a game from these battle tactics and be the same amount that you're getting from objectives.
There you go. Exactly what I was going to say. If you choose wisely, you can just basically get free ones. Bye, Smorgan. And if you already left, you'll see this when you come back. So, anyways, I hope you're having a good day, buddy. Okay.
6 out of 8.
Yes, have a monster thing in them. A lot.
Yep.
Which, by the way, well, I'll get to it in a second. Okay, I'm going to go through these real fast. Here we go. Broken Ranks. Pick one battle line unit from your opponent's starting army. You complete this if that unit is destroyed during this turn, plus 1 VP if you do it with a monster.
Yep.
Conquer. Pick one objective marker on the battlefield your opponent controls. Complete this if you control that objective marker at the end of your turn. Slay the Warlord. You complete this battle tactic if the model chosen, not bonus, general is slain during this turn. If they were slain by a monster, plus 1 VP. Archeon loves many of these, by the way. He's like, I'm all in for this stuff.
Yeah.
Feed me your general. Feed me, Seymour. Feed me. Ferocious Advance. This one's so insane. Pick 3 different units from your starting army on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if all the units you picked run in the following movement phase and finish that run within 3 inches of each other. If all 3 of those units are monsters, score 1 additional victory point. Okay, got it. Aggressive Expansion. When you reveal this battle tactic, pick 2 objective markers on the battlefield that are not wholly within your territory. You complete this battle tactic if you control both objective markers at the end of this turn. Monstrous Takeover. Pick 1 monster from your starting army and on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if that monster is contesting, not controlling, contesting, which means you don't have to actually get it. You just have to be there. Okay? An objective marker, contesting objective marker that you control at the end of this turn, and that objective marker is not contested by an enemy monster. My point being that the monster doesn't have to take it alone. He doesn't need to be the winning thing, right?
Can have friends.
He can have friends, right? Like, you just literally pick a marker in your territory with a monster standing near it, and you're like, that's mine now. I get that. And you get +1. Or sorry, you don't get +1. You complete it. I'm sorry. Okay. That one's yours worth 2. And then Savage Spearhead. You complete this battle tactic if there are 2 or more units from your starting army wholly within your opponent's territory at the end of this turn. If 2 or more of those units are monsters, score 1 additional victory point. Okay, so here's the... We talked earlier about the
You missed
points.
one.
Did I miss one? What did I read?
Bring it down.
Oh, bring it down. Thank you. I read right over that one. Thank you. Pick 1 enemy monster on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if that unit is destroyed this turn. If the enemy monster was destroyed by an attack made by a friendly monster or the ability of a friendly monster, +1 VP. Thank you very much. Appreciate you catching me there.
While we're at it, we might want to mention, Dan, you'd raised this before the show. What qualifies as in destroyed by an attack? I think that was a question you'd raised. Or am I thinking of something else? Your Lord of Change, was that something else?
That was... So the bonus VP comes if it is achieved by an attack or an ability of a friendly monster.
Yes.
So I was thinking through what counts as an attack, what counts as an ability. Do spells count as abilities, or are they attacks? Like what? Because I'd seen some chat around whether or not spells count, and it's relevant for people like Zinch who are running Lord of Change, who their main way of achieving it is going to be damage dealing spells. And I think where we landed was that yes, spells are abilities, and so it's all fine.
Yep.
With the core rules.
Yep.
The battle tactics are really interesting. Like you go through that list, you've got 8 of them. Only one of them requires you to have a monster, but you're heavily incentivized to take an effective hammer monster in your list. So as Vince was saying, so many of these scenarios are going to be decided by a small number of victory points. So therefore a bonus victory point from having achieved it is quite significant in terms of actually achieving the game outcome, to move from 2 VPs to 3 VPs for achieving a battle tactic by doing it with a monster. And 5 of those 8 give you benefits if they're achieved by monsters.
I think it's
so
6.
strong incentives.
Well, and then 1 requires your enemy to have a monster. So if they don't have a monster, you can't do you can't do Bring It Down if they don't have any monsters at all. So like if you're playing Night Haunt, Bring It Down is just off the table, right?
Yeah. The only other 2 sort of high-level things I was going to talk about the battle tactics before we get into a bit more detail was aggressive expansion is 2 objectives not wholly within your territory. So I'm not sure you can achieve that in the Power in Numbers battle plan, because there's a number of battle plans that we'll get to where the objectives are on the edge of territories.
Right.
And then the other thing to note was the Savage Spearhead one, where it's 2+ units within the enemy territory. For most of these battle plans, when we get to see them, the enemy territories are smaller. We've only got a few now which have the sort of standard half the board deployment territories. So quite a few scenarios are going to have smaller territories to move into.
Yes, as I was getting there, Paul, don't worry. So it's important. This is where we need to bring back in. We talked about having the monster's base. This is where we need to bring back in the concept of that realm spell. Don't forget, you can turn your other heroes into monsters, right?
Yep.
And they stick like that. So, for example, you might look at your enemy force, see that they have no monsters in their list. You think, I can't use Bring It Down. Okay? But then they use the realm spell to turn their hero into a monster, and you've got an easy shot at killing that person in your turn. They're still a monster until their next hero phase, right? So if they're not on the double, kill that dude. You pick Bring It Down, you go kill that dude.
Right.
Exactly. Why? So it's far riskier to use Metamorphosis in the top of a battle round than it is in the bottom, because you gain the benefit and then it rolls off, and you don't expose yourself. And of course, Battle Tactics only being picked at the start of the hero phase rather than battle round. If you're second in the round, then you can react to an opponent that has metamorphosized one of their heroes.
Yep. The other thing I will say, so the other thing I'll say about this at high level is, I think the real key to these battle tactics, I think a lot of these are very easy, by the way, and are just going to happen automatically almost. But the real key is pick the one. Make sure you don't go for the lowest, easiest fruit right away. Like, you need to think a couple turns ahead into what you're going to be able to achieve. So, for example, let me just walk you through a scenario here real fast, okay? Savage Spearhead is awesome if you happen to have very easy ambushing or teleporting or close teleporting units where you know you're going to be able to put a foothold into their territory unopposed, right? If you're in a scenario with a wide zone, if you've got multiple ambushers or multiple teleporters, and you know you can just drop, right? You got a couple tree revs or whatever, right? And you know you can just play your little flute and just whistle over to the sides of their territory. Boom, slam dunk, easy. Now, you don't get the +1 for that being a monster, right? But, like, the point is that one, or whatever you happen to be doing, make sure you're thinking, what am I going to do turn 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah.
At minimum at the start of the game, right?
Yep.
And so, like, an easy example here is Ferocious Advance. Ferocious Advance is a really interesting one because you can just pick 3 backline support characters and say that are near each other, or a support character, 2 support characters in a unit, or 2 units in a support character. I don't care. You get what I'm saying, right? They're backline people. An archer's unit, a war machine, and a hero. Whatever. Lots of armies have deck chair sitters, right? And you can just go, okay, I pick Ferocious Advance. They all ran. They run 0 inches. I move them 0 inches. I complete this. Done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Because they just stand still. And if you happen to, for some reason, have 3 monsters that can do that, great. You know what I mean? If your Sons of Bahamut, this one can be pretty easy depending on how you're needing to move for the scenario.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, especially if you happen to be in a build where you've got 3 babies.
Yeah, you may.
Like, individual babiys, by the way.
Right.
They can be 3 units.
That it might be nice to try to. I mean, that could be one if you're confident, like you're going to win a game, you might hold off on that one for later. But otherwise, I mean, like as you're in the thick of a game, you may not have opportunities to run 3 units because they need to move and then charge, or
Sure.
So, like, yeah, it could be a lot of
and they're all over the board. They're no longer
Right,
within
exactly.
3 inches of each other at the end of it. So it's sort of, you do it first turn, or you're probably going to be out of position for it.
Yeah, aggressive expansion feels like a potential early one. You know, like you're given top of 1, and you got the Savage Gains. Just pop on those 2 in the middle.
Yes, like aggressive expansion, you need to always keep your eye on that. Does the scenario? It is your, like, I played Savage Gains, and my opponent went, I'm picking aggressive expansion. They went out and took the 2 middles because I gave them top of 1, and it was immediate, right?
Done.
Because it's just the easy choice. Like, that is going to be a hard one to complete later. It's a slam dunk right now, and I saved the rest of my slam dunkaroonies for later in the game.
Yeah.
And you haven't lost anything, right? Because the units, often in those kinds of scenarios, the units that you're throwing on are ones that you're willing to give away anyway.
Right. You were just moving out chaff.
You've thrown chaff on there. You don't care because you know the other side are going to get an easier charge or whatever, and you're just going to be giving them up anyway.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't started like trying to think through how much, and it's going to be list dependent, but like if you've got 2 alpha bunker bricks that against Savage Gains, you could plop on aggressive expansion. Well, maybe you could be confident that that's going to be difficult for your opponent to get that one in the game. But
Yeah.
but of course they've still got quite a few others here, which gets into your point, Vince, that we'll talk about more later about maybe we've got too many options here in terms of flex if one particular is too difficult. But yeah, I'm just thinking like there could be, trying to think about some trade-offs. Normally, yeah, we would just run up some chaff, some trio of spite, whatever. But then it's going to be easy for opponent to immediately get aggressive expansion in return at the bottom of one, let's say. So
Yes.
is that ideal? Is it worth thinking about that? Yeah.
Yeah. I want to answer Paul real quick here. Paul, the reason they wrote that in there was because of the vibrating Space Marines that they had in 40K, the remaining stationary rule. They moved. I look at the 3 units and go, they moved 0.1 inches. There, I did it. They ran.
Yeah.
Like, again, your opponent's not going to be like, okay, but you didn't declare their remaining stationary, right? Like they had to rules out remaining stationary to prevent the vibrating Marine situation. That's the only reason that's there. So I mean, you don't need to move any distance to achieve it. Is the real point? Any distance of measure, right?
Yep.
Okay. You do then just count as moving, of course. Yeah. I mean, to me, I think that this one's interesting because yes, there are bonuses for monsters, but I actually think that some of these are quite hard to achieve with monsters. Okay. Like what I mean by that is broken ranks, depending on the monster you have, probably on the easier side. Like if you've got a wounded battle line unit, that's a mid to late game one, right?
Yeah.
You've got a wounded battle line unit, you're gonna go pick them up. If you've got a good monster, especially a good monster hero, you're gonna run in there. You're gonna, maybe you if you need to, you find a Stour, maybe you roar at them, whatever. You pick them up.
Yep.
Okay.
I've been doing that one a lot. Yeah, round 3, round 4.
That's a round 3, round 4 tactic. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Conquer is your round 3, round 4 one, right? And the trading that's going to happen. And there will be lots of trading in the middle of this game. We'll talk about that when we get to tempo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Slay the Warlord, is honestly one you're going to skip a lot of the time. It can be very hard to achieve, depending on who your enemy general is, right? Again, if they have some big immortal general that they've chosen, it can be hard. But keep your eye on it, right? A lot of times you might have Marathi in there, but she's not the chosen general. She's the bonus general. The chosen general is some on-foot Medusa, right? That if you can go in and whack, if you know you've got a clear shot at her, then you go take it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's coming to play with Sylvaneth lists, like Warsong Revenant versus True Lord Ancient. True Lord Ancient needs to be upfield. Warsong Revenant with a spell portal is hanging out in the backfield, so it's probably going to be the general. And just try to deny some points. If you want to come after the Warsong Revenant, usually feel free to. I want you to, because that's probably getting you out of position.
Sure.
All else equal. But yeah.
I actually watched a game with a Sylvaneth player against Lumineth, and the Sylvaneth player had to move the Warsong dude out to take an objective, and that put him in range of the Cow Mountain, who then walked over and whammed him for 20 damage, and he exploded.
Yep.
He exploded. But it was still a good play, because ultimately it gave him the point. He's still, in the great trade, it actually won him the game.
Yeah.
Definition of good trading.
Right. So, yes, he lost the Warsong, but it didn't end up mattering. Right. So, okay. Anyways, Ferocious Advance is the hardest one, I think, to score with your monster bonus, is what I mean. Right? It's so easy to do, but it's hard to get the bonus VP for. Because you've got to have all 3 of those units being monsters.
Sure. Yeah.
And a lot of armies won't have 3 monsters in them.
Yeah.
And if you are the Beast Claw or the Gristlegore build,
sure,
then
Do you
really
want to have
want
three guys that close to each other?
Yes. Do you want to be keeping them close together? I once played a game against someone who was running sort of Vordry, Manfred, and a normal Terrorgeist around the battle in a group together because they were all buffing each other. But outside of that sort of scenario, then do you want your main hammer pieces all stuck together? Turn one? Probably not.
Maybe. It actually did come up in Haywo's first battle report. That's exactly what he did. Yeah, he took that one round one. But
it's useful for things like Star Strike or whatever the new Star Strike is named for.
Yeah, they were playing Star Strike.
Where you're not doing anything turn one anyway, so you're just gonna do that and then move.
You're just sitting on your hands in the first turn. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Veins of Ghur, I guess is what it's called.
Bring It Down is one of those ones that's going to be like super sensitive to what your enemy's playing, where their monster's positioned, how good is your monster. Like, oh my god, that can actually be a really hard one to achieve. If their only monster happens to be Archeon and your only monster is a Cockatrice, good luck.
Right.
I hope you roll really well.
Yeah.
Right. So the point is that a lot of these are very easy to achieve. Like, you could usually get yourself into turn 4, turn 5 pretty straightforwardly. The key is you've got to be stacking. That's if you stack them in the right order. Right?
Yep.
Now, I will say, like, in my Slaves of Darkness list, I'm always including a kitty cat now. It's llama cat time every day, all day. Because that is a 95-point monster. And I was running around like, I was like, monsters take over, boom. There he is. He's contesting. Hook it up, kitty cat. Just out there living his best life. You know?
I did mourn the loss of the monster keyword on the Idneth Sharks.
Yeah, sharks no longer monsters.
Well deserved.
Mourned that loss.
So what are we thinking are the hardest this list? We talked about Slave of the Warlord. That could be quite difficult depending on the matchup. I could see the point. Similar notion. Bring It Down. Potentially matchup dependent. Can be quite tough. What else?
I think those are the two.
Those are the two. Yeah. Savage
because they're
Spearhead.
highly dependent on killing a specific, often very tough, rarefied thing in the enemy force.
Yeah. I was interested. Who do we think are the winner? Given the focus on monsters for the bonuses and for achieving some of these, who do we think are the winners and losers in terms of
Sons of Behemoth?
Apart from the obvious sons.
Oh, okay, got it. Because I mean, stonks.
Taken as read.
To the moon. I want to just real quick. Before, I want to get back to your winners and losers questions. I just want to make one really meaningful point, which is, yes, you can earn about the same number of bonus points out of the battle tactics that you can give up by having monsters die, but that is a very smooth brain take, because one monster can earn you all 5 of these.
Yes.
Okay? Round after round, they can just sit there and pay dividends and just keep earning bonus VPs by selecting different tactics. If they die, they can only give the opponent 1. Period. So, like, one good, durable hero monster is worth their weight in gold and very low risk. I would never play a Skaven list without a Vermin Lord. Never. No. It wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Every list has got to have it. Like, every list, the list archetype now is going to be, to the extent that you can get one, you put in a 14 wound hero monster with a 4-up save, a 5-up ward, preferably with access to fly, and then you add in the rest of your army. Then you add in the rest of your army.
Yeah. Looking for that 3-up save, but no, absolutely. Yeah.
And yes, that's not I saw Tristan Gray said, so Rob has a smooth brain. No, that's not a shot at Rob. I did listen to his show. He mentioned that with more nuance as well. So he didn't have the simple take either. But he mentioned there's risk, and there is risk. You're going to give up points. But, like, Sons are so... Artorias Rex said, our Sons of Behemoth excellent and competitive now, or do all these changes to make them workable? Oh, they're... Competitive-wise, they went through the roof. If somebody... when this book had released... Somebody had told me, hey, look, I know you're upset, but 9 months from now, it's going to feel like a totally different army, and it's going to play how you want it to play. I'd be like, great, I'll just wait. I'll shut up. So, anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder if the playtesters are laughing at us with their more experience. In the GHB 21, with regard to we're hitting on the seemingly obvious, but I do have a hard time getting away from the obvious, and that's certainly reflected in my list writing so far. I mean, I didn't go to two cabbages simply because it looked amazingly fun and it's smaller models for commission, yada yada yada. But like, I really think that's a very strong Iron Jaws list right now, at least.
Sure.
And then Sylvaneth. My first list was a grab bag. The second iteration, Tree Lords are turned on now, in my opinion. A power pair of like 3 swords, Tree Lord, Arch Rev, Crown of Bowers, Real Wounds, maybe a Branch Witch and Null Root. That's like a little group. Then you've got Durthu and a True Lord Ancient. So I've got 3 monsters.
Sure.
Still great means. War Song Revenant doing its spell portal jazz. So kind of 3 centers of gravity in that list. Still really good ability. All is equal to summon Dryads to get bodies throughout the game. Help me there. I've got 2 Tree Revs. It feels like a really nice list, and I don't like the idea of moving away from 3 monsters. So anyway, yeah, in terms of winners, like War Clans,
Yep.
Maw Tribe,
Double Crusher War Clans.
Yeah,
Maw Tribe's big time, especially BCR Monster Truck build. Suns. I think you mentioned Sylvaneth. I do think they're a winner in this, though Sylvaneth still have a lot of work to do to be like highly competitive. But I do think they're like they got a bump. They have interesting options at least.
They're probably most improved,
right?
Whether or not they get high enough,
yeah,
it's like leap.
yeah, they got a lot of building to scale here, but they came up a few floors, right? They're not down in like the sub basement anymore. They can at least see daylight now. They're not up on the living that top floor lifestyle, but they're out of the basement.
Yeah, they're out of the basement.
I
think Soul Blight is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say Soul Blight, 100%. Like Vorderai, your like Manfred is incredible in so many of these for his like I don't get killed unless I decide I want to be killed ability, basically. Velazda, all these things are fantastic. What's her name? The Lukovai and the Avangor or the Vengorian Lord, all good. Yes, 100%. I think a lot of like it's interesting because I look at something like BOC, and you say, well, they've got a bunch of monsters. That must be good, right?
But they're the wrong kind of monsters.
They're the wrong kind of monsters, exactly. When I look at their monsters, I think, no, that's the army that's going to give up 5 victory points or 4 victory points or whatever. Because your monsters are very, for the most part, ineffectual things that don't do enough damage and are on 4 and 5 up saves. Like, I'm just going to kill them whenever I want to. Like, I'll bring it down whenever I decide I want to bring it down by just killing one of your monsters.
Yeah.
Right. Archeon, we mentioned him already, but should be mentioned. Skaven, because of Thanquol, who is a monster, and all the Vermin Lords, but especially the Deceiver, the Corruptor, and the Warp Seer, or whatever, who is Toit with a 4-up rerollable, 5-up after save. That is my dog right there.
Yeah. See some more Star Drakes and Drakethorn Templo in the Stormcast builds.
If they get the good rewrite, stonks. Hardcore. I actually want to... I hope Star Drakes are still kind of like, okay. But then the Toralon guy becomes amazing, because he's also a monster. And I just want an excuse to buy a Toralon. I really like that model.
Yeah.
So...
Dan,
come through for me, GW. Make that stupid thing work.
Right. Looking at this, are you attracted to the idea of going to a 2-day 5-round with 2 turtles?
No, because I want to take my Sylvaneth to play around with.
There you go.
And I also don't own 2 turtles, so that would be a problem for me. But
do you think that's a good list, though? A good starting point for 90K now?
Turtles are so expensive. That's the challenge, because they went up.
I don't think you're 1 turtle. Yes, 2 turtles. No, but we've already seen at the back end of AOS 2 that the sort of soul turtle build has been getting much more play for IDK. But you sort of identify one of the factions which has got limited choices in terms of dealing with monsters, right? So IDK is one of them. Fire Slayers have just got Magma Droths and the different versions of it. Gloomspite, would you take Manglers? Spiders, not going to do you well. Nighthaunt, I had to try and really work out what the monster was you take in Nighthaunt. OBR, got the Harvester, Nagash and Arcan.
I think Lumineth is an interesting one.
I mean,
I've seen
Mr.
too many
Stoneheart
Lumineth.
King Boy is like the
Yeah,
named hero monsters. That is to say, Alarith, the Stoneheart King, or whatever his name is.
I've
I
seen a
think, yeah,
lot
it's
of.
Which
interesting.
I think it's a fundamental. It could be quite a fundamental change for Lumineth, right? So you've
That's
got
yeah.
lists which are built around Orlon Legion
Hmm.
or Techless builds, and the
Hmm.
thing is, like, do you want to be trying to achieve many of these battle tactics with Techless? I suppose you can if you're going to be sniping with spells and things like
Or
that, but
spells maybe, but yeah.
he's not as
He's
massive.
he's pretty chip
Uh,
damage. He's not, and with the healing that we have access to now, yeah, I don't know if that's going
you're
to
not
add
going to
up
bring people
sufficiently.
down. So
Yeah.
instead, you're going to want to go Stoneheart King or Avalanor, and so you're then going to go, well, okay, well, how do I maximize that? I have Stone Mage, and then there's a whole range of decisions that flow from
And
that.
then all of a sudden, you're just playing Ymetrica, and you're immune to Ren 2 and less, and it's like,
I mean,
it's
a
not
lot of these
bad.
battle plans, yeah. I mean, Marty was raising this. Marty Orlando is, uh, good painter, Lumineth guy, whatever his
Mhm.
official title is nowadays. Yeah, Marty was talking about this today, and yeah, I've seen too many Lumineth armies ran over the last couple of weeks that are running the traditional Venari builds, on a double in
Yeah.
particular. And so I do wonder, yeah, if we might be seeing more. I mean, a lot of these battle plans, it's 3 objectives in the middle or it's 4 objectives. You need to be able to shift your opponent off and then holds and or holds. And yeah, Emetrica might be with those monsters. We might see more of that.
Yeah. A couple other shout outs here. AOS coach said Battle Mage on Griffin meta confirmed. No, denied. Denied that motion. But I'm officially going to rule here. We do have council present, so as the sitting judge, that motion is denied. And however, cities are far from in trouble because their two Phenai got cheaper, and the Frostheart Phoenix or the Fire Phoenix are superb choices at their current points cost in
Oh,
this
yeah.
in this meta.
Yeah.
Yep, they're definitely good choices. Yeah, there's a
And
few other sort of sneaky options in there. James Page being a fan of the Sorcerer Lord or Manticore for
okay.
Zeke's
Yeah,
builds
yeah.
and things.
Uh-huh. I like him too. Yeah, I think the Sorcerer Lord on Manticore is underrated. You have to use him a little more carefully. He is a little fragile, but that dude, he comes with a great spell. He's solid. He's solid.
Yeah.
I rate him. I rate him. All right.
I was asking about last one, Bellacore. I don't know, Steve, if you missed it, I was talking earlier about Legion of the First Prince. They can run the Monster Mash
Oh,
as
yeah.
well as anybody. Vermin Lords.
Well, and they do often have a
Bellacore.
lot of sort of deck chair sitting monsters that can sit around and like easily complete something like Ferocious Advance, where all 3 of their monsters do just hang out together or something for a round.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
that wouldn't be that weird.
That's what he did last. Yeah, that's what my friend Trad did last night. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So here's my summary. Let me see what you guys think about this, and then we'll move into the individual scenarios. The larger number of grand strategies and battle tactics in the GHB versus the core rules means it's more likely people will always have items they can accomplish. Monsters represent some risk, but the potential for a lot of reward if played properly. As I said, a single monster can earn multiple VP in battle tactics, but can only give 1 back when killed. Monster heroes are, of course, the more powerful option, but cheap, ultra cheap mobile monsters, Cockatrice, Llama Cat, right? By the way, I'm just calling that's the Mind Stealer sphere ranks for people who don't know our weird little vernacular here. If you're watching this for the first time, first of all, welcome, thank you. I'm so glad to have you here. That's awesome.
Hit like and subscribe.
Hit like and subscribe. That goes for the rest of you too. Yeah, absolutely. Smash that like button. Smash the like button for Llama Cat. And I think things like that are actually really powerful choices because they can just sit around. They're not necessarily like the Cockatrice has a shooting attack. The Llama Cat is just putting out this giant bubble of neg 2 bravery, and then sometimes making people go last, which is fine.
Yeah.
Like he does what he needs to do for 95 points. Right? Just existing as a monster. And like if somebody's gonna really try to chase down my Llama Cat and kill it to get a bonus victory point, the number of things that they just ignored that are actual potent threats, like fine.
Yep. How many points are Hydras and Charybdises and things?
Still too much, like 165 and 170, I think, off the top of my head.
Okay, so they're not sort of cheap enough to just stick on the outside of a.
Yeah, when I can get 2 Llama Cats almost for your Hydra, it's like that's the play here. Like those monsters are so cheap, right?
Charybdis 165. War Hydra. Where is that one? I don't see
Don't
that
even
one.
know where to find it on the list.
Yeah, they're in Cities of Sumar. Yeah, War Hydra 170.
Yeah. Too much.
Nailed it. Got him.
Yep.
Got him. All right, gentlemen. Anything else in the summary? Anything we didn't mention here? You wanna close this out on before we get into the individual scenarios?
I mean, did you want to get into your little notion about potentially we need to have fewer of these right now, or?
I mean, my basic argument is I think there are too many of them and they're too easy. We
Yeah.
touched on it a lot. If you go to only like the base 3 out of the GHB for grand strategies would is a much tougher choice. It would mean everybody's picking the battle line one. Okay?
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
what it would mean. And everybody now has to have deck chair sitters in their army. Because no one's picking Vendetta base, and no one's picking the kill all the enemy heroes base. So there's effectively only one in the base book. So that's kind of weak. The battle tactics, I really think the 6 in the base book are stronger. Because they're not tilted towards this crazy monster game. And now that sucks because then if you like, it would tilt it way against monsters because then your monsters can only give up VPs. But assuming then if you're not using these, you're not using any of the Ghur rules and you're just stepping away from the Ghur rules completely. You're not using any realm rules. And it resets the game much back more to a neutral footing. And I think it would play a lot differently. I think you would have people much more likely to only get 3 or 4 as opposed to all 5.
So let's see. Maybe real quickly, battle tactics core rules. So aggressive expansion, that's the same. Break their spirit. Pick one enemy unit wholly within your opponent's territory. Completes tactic that unit destroyed. Similar, little different. Broken ranks. Pick one unit from your opponent's starting army on the battlefield. The completes tactic the unit is destroyed. Okay, so conquer, similar, repel.
Exactly the same. Yep.
Yeah, repel, pick one enemy unit wholly or partially within your territory. Complete tactic that unit is destroyed. Little different. Seize the center. Okay, so a lot of these are kill an enemy unit.
Yes.
So, okay. And then we got Slay the Warlord, yeah, which we said could be difficult. I mean, maybe I'm curious if you guys were to pick. So, let's say, wait, 5? No, not 5, 6 for a 5-round event. What 6 are we picking?
Oh, you're saying what 2 do you fire off the list if you wanted to?
Yeah, and if we're pulling from the, I mean, we don't have to do this right now, but I'm really curious for tournaments. You know, if like
I think tournaments for now should just use all basic 8. If I was gonna fire 2 off the roof, if that's what you're asking,
yeah,
I don't know. Probably like Monstrous Takeover and Ferocious Advance, I suspect, or something like that. I'd have to think about it.
Okay.
I mean, it's but I wouldn't mess with it, honestly. I would just leave it as these 8. The right answer is right now we stick to the basics.
Sure.
Exactly.
I could, I think people will just use this. Now, if somebody wanted to run the stuff out of the base book and say we're not using the realm rules because we're going to start out simple, I'd be like, okay, that's
right.
Cool with me.
Yep. Cool.
I think you want to play the GHB battle pack, get through some events. Let's all reassess it in October.
Yeah.
And see what the world looks like once we've got events under the belt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. So, scenarios. I need a timestamp. Hold on. Let's just go that.
Battle plans.
Yeah, I know they're called battle plans, but I like scenarios. So, because saying scenario is way cooler than battle plan. All right. Some of these might require a little more commentary than others. So we'll move through these kind of quickly. There's 12 of them, and I don't want to be here until tomorrow. All right. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, are we going to deal with them in a general level first and then go into
Yes, I'm going to use First Blood here. I picked this one intentionally as the first one because it represents a lot of standard things we're going to run into that I can then set up in general terms, and then we don't have to talk about that crap again. Okay, so the first one's going to take a little longer. Okay, important thing to realize, the board does not have measurements on it because it doesn't need measurements. It now has a grid pattern. That grid is 11 inches by 15 inches.
Yep.
Okay, so each one of those squares is 11 by 15 because the board is 44 by 60. All right, we're all with me here. Okay. Yep. So, You're going to see a lot of different. Many of these have much closer. It ends up being deployment zones, like where you can
Yep.
get pretty close to your enemy. There's a lot of 9 inches in here, or a lot of things like that in this triple setup here. In this, like, which occurs in a couple of them. The 2 Tetris pieces missing, right?
L-shaped corners.
Yes, with the L-shaped corners. In this one, you end up, what is that, like 13 inches apart on the hypotenuse, basically? Something like that?
18.6.
Is that what it is? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Yeah, 11 squared plus, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Thank you.
It's the only 18.6 inches apart scenario in the book.
There you go. So that's kind of how those set up. But again, as you mentioned, some of these do have smaller territories, and this is one of those ones you were talking about, Dan, right? Like, if part of your choice is to get into the other opponent's territory, that can be kind of hard because they don't have a lot of space. They're pretty crammed in there, right? It's going to be easy for them to just hedge out all of their space. The other thing
you can screen out a 9-inch bubble quite well in an L-shaped little corner area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say is the way this tends to go is the way that all of this says in the scenario is you decide who's attacker and who's defender. The defender sets up the terrain, and then the attacker chooses side. I'm just going to go ahead and assume we're ignoring all of that for tournaments. Yeah. And we will just roll as normal for who picks side, because obviously we're not going to have people at tournaments resetting tournament tables that were set up by the TOs. So,
well, the thing I was pointing out to you, Vince, is that right now, if you win the rollout to pick sides, you also are dropping first. So you're breaking the tie if you guys have the same number of drops. You're double dipping on the benefit.
Sure.
That, I don't know. It seems weird to me. I don't know, Dan, if you had any thoughts on that.
Meh, it's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay. I don't think there will be that many 1-drop people running around, but I think there will be a fair number of 4-drop people, so there'll be a lot of tie breaking on 4 drops. So, you're effectively just rolling off before you roll to see who wins, right? Like, you knew you were both 4-drop. All you're doing is just going,
sure,
okay, I get to go first. Or I get priority, I should say, not go first. I should say priority. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, if we're using scenery effects and we've got arcane on one side, but on another side, like there's going to be differential value, and it just seems a little strange to me, that all the value is potentially on one side, relatives, but whatever.
Yep. All right, so this one uses this standard scoring method, and this is important to understand because we're going to come back to this a bunch of times from then. I'm not going to talk about it from now on other than this time. So standard scoring method works like this. 1 victory point if you control at least 1 objective. 1 victory point if you control 2 or more objectives. 1 victory point if you control more objectives than your opponent. Okay, so let's put that onto First Blood. There are 3 objectives. None of them happen to be prime objectives. We'll talk about that when we introduce that in a moment. So if I control 2 out of the 3 objectives, I get 3 victory points. Because I have at least 1, I have at least 2, and I have more than my opponent by necessity. Because I control 2 out of the 3, it would not be possible for them to have an equal or greater number. Okay? And then you get 2 victory points for the battle tactic. This is just the super standard scoring. The First Blood is actually like straight up, I love this scenario. I think it's fantastic. To me, this is a slam dunk tournament includer. Let me just say that. Tight deployment zone. Easy to map out. I'm gonna go buy some like wooden measuring sticks or something, like wooden rulers off of Amazon or eBay, super cheap, and I'm just gonna cut them to 11 and 15 inches, so I can just trace out territories. Just bloop 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 bloop. Simple and easy. And like the only special thing in this one is at the start of each battle round, after players have received the start of their round command points, the player taking the second turn gets to pick a special objective. If you control that special objective, then you receive 1 extra command point when you start your turn. So basically you're encouraging you pick it, assumingly you control it, and you're encouraging your opponent to come kill you off of it, and then you try to take it back and no one actually gets it. Because they try
When-
to kill you off it, and then they fail to hold it, and then you kill them off it, and then you fail to hold it, and nobody gets the bonus command point. Sorry.
When does this trigger? When do you potentially get the benefit?
At the start of each battle round, after you have received your start of round command points, that is when it triggers. The player taking the second turn picks one objective on the battlefield to be the vantage point. When the player receives their start of round command points, the thing that we already said this happens after. Okay.
Yeah.
So you receive it in the following turn.
Correct.
So you nominate after you've generated CP. So you then nominate, you then try to get it, and if you've succeeded, then the next round you get it.
Right.
Is it the next turn or the next round? It would be the next
round, because it's your
The next
start
round.
of round
Yeah.
command
Yes.
points.
Okay, next round. Okay, we had this debate last night because we played First Blood, and that's what we concluded. Yeah, next round. Okay.
Yep.
Start of round.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, this one is actually just like straight simple. It's a great scenario. I freaking love it. I think it's a standard tournament. This is a winner. This is a winner chicken dinner. It's a tournament thumbs up for me. I think it's an include. What do you guys think?
Yep. Yeah, agreed. So the other thing to just round out in terms of the sort of setting the baseline of what is the standard win conditions for battle plans in GHB is that you get a major win if you've got the most number of VPs. If you are tied on VPs, then we go to see who gets a minor. You get a minor if you've completed more battle tactics than your opponent. If you are tied on battle tactics, you can still get a minor if you've completed your grand strategy and your opponent has not. If you are tied on battle tactics and tied on grand strategies, then it's a draw. So we will have potentially more draws.
I am absolutely predicting a 5 to 10% increase in the number of draws across the board.
Yep.
Which would be a huge jump, by the by. Like, that's a massive thing I just said.
It'll massively shake up. It'll shake up events massively.
Yeah.
Having more draws in the mix, and even having more minors. Because it's not like if you've got more battle tactics, you still get a major. It's you're only going to get a minor.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, big fan of this scenario. Like I said, we played last night. Yeah, close one. And yeah, it was very relevant. The seismic shift in terms of who had the opportunity to burn which objective. It's a can. It's not a must. And yeah, that kept me in the game.
Yeah, on these like 3 objective scenarios, you then got to keep in mind, holy crap, at the top of 3, one of these 3 can go away. And this suddenly becomes twite, right? Like, that is going to be much weirder.
Because one of those 3 going away, then you're going to increase the chances that you hold one each. So therefore, you're both denied the opportunity of getting a VP of controlling more than your opponent.
Yep.
The sort of balance between VPs from objectives versus VPs from battle tactics has shifted. And so if you've got some sort of good late game battle tactics available, then lifting an objective off the board will skew the overall game result in your favor.
Yeah, the other thing I'll say, and this is where one of the points I kind of touched on earlier, my experience in the game so far has been this game is much more back and forth tempo. Between less larger units, right? Like because your reinforcements are capped at 4, a lot of units that were 40 came down to 30, right? Maximum, and then you don't tend to have as many 30s anyways. Like, my experience thus far in the 4 games I've played has been a lot of like this back and forth, where like I have more than them in my turn and score 3. They take 1 back away from me and they score 3. I push on them, they push on me. I push on them, they push on me. And we end up trading in different places back and forth, right? And that's
Similar
what
experience.
happens.
Yep.
A lot of small units getting wiped and then trading, making smart trades really being a key to victory, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and playing on a smaller footprint in terms of the smaller average number of objectives.
Yep.
So I mean, this kind of goes without saying. This might seem like a silly statement, but you really need to have a list, all else equal, that can burn people off of objectives. You know, like running a tree army that's dancing around and you're not getting people off of objectives, you're going to lose the game. Like,
and at the same time, what I'll say is, it's interesting because not only is it a smaller number of objectives average, which is true, it's also a smaller number you need to care about.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not victory points, like, there's just diminishing marginal utility. For example, in First Blood, there's basically no reason for you to ever try to grab the 3rd objective.
unless there's insurance because you're going to trade away one
Right.
of the objectives the next round.
Yep.
So that's the only reason you'd want to control 3 is because I'm going to tag this one and I know I'm going to lose it next turn, so I'll grab one on the other side of the board.
Right.
But otherwise, you just push for 2 and you bunker on your 2.
Right. Like once you've hit the cap, right? Once you've reached 3, stop. In most cases. Now there's some exceptions and things we'll talk about, but for the most part, it's like you're not trying to spread to cover the battlefield, right? In a lot of the old missions, GHB 2020, you really had incentive to go out and try to grab like everything you could. And so the question was, how far can you spread your army without snapping your tactical effectiveness?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I know, like in First Blood, like I said, if I had not been able to burn, so he was castled hard on the middle. I had control of my right. He had a mask and 10 demonettes on my far left. And he had just wiped out the 5 tree revs that had snagged that to get the battle tactic at the top of the round, whatever that was to take 2 objectives. Okay, so if I hadn't been able to burn that far left to then orient the battle middle to right, which is where I was, I could have been screwed because Kairos was going to continue to shut down the woods. Anyways, like some armies just may not have the ability to sufficiently redeploy. And yeah, if you're not winning that roll to go second in that third battle round in terms of what gets burned. So
yeah, the ability to remove an objective and force the opponent to just suddenly have to shift their entire weight of force is massive. Absolutely massive. Especially if you've got decent chaff lines and all sorts of stuff in between to protect you. Unless we had anything else to say on First Blood, now that we've got that sort of baseline, I was just going to say sort of 3 generic things before we then look into the rest of the battle plans. So Vince has outlined the basic scoring which applies for what we call the sort of standard basic scoring for these battle plans. 6 of the 12 battle plans in this GHB have that maximum of 3 VPs a turn from objectives. Vince has covered off that we're dealing with shorter minimum distances. So we've got 5 battle plans which are 18 inches apart, 1 at 18.6, 5 at 22, and 1 at 24, which is Vice, which is an interesting one in terms of how the armies move together.
Love it.
Yeah. We've said that there's a lower number of fewer objectives in each scenario. So we're dealing with 5 battle plans with only 3 objectives. We've got 4 with 4 objectives, 1 with 5 objectives, and 2 with 6. So we have no 8 objective battle plans anymore.
Well, they realized they couldn't print scenarios that gave you more objectives than they were giving you the little coins that came with Dominion.
So we are capped at 6. And of those, we've got, as I said, sort of 4 battle plans with prime objectives. So those are just sort of the generic, what does the set of battle plans look like in terms of shared characteristics?
I love it. I love it. Dan, that's fantastic data. You're delivering it. I was going to go through and do all that, and I was like, man, Dan will probably do it. Okay. So now we can move through relatively quickly. Are we all saying thumbs up? This is a potential good one for tournaments.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, Veins of Ghur.
I have an asterisk. I do think it's similar in footprint to another one that we'll get into.
Sure, that's fine.
In terms, but yeah. Like I feel like it's one of the 2 probably with the pack. But yeah.
Yep. Okay, Veins of Ghur, your traditional horizontal deployment, 22 inches apart. We call this updated Star Strike because it is very much updated Star Strike because it's just Star Strike. But instead of them coming down from the heavens, up came a bubble and crude. There is a pretty high chance that things end up in one of the 2 outside spaces. I cut off the numbers in my little screenshot here, but trust me, that's the math because it's like 1, 5, 7.
It's 2 to 6, 7 in the center, and 8 to 12 on the side.
Yes, exactly. So, like, realistically, you only actually have a 16.6 repeating % chance that it ends up in the center space. So it's very likely to tip toward the sides. When it drops, and it's just like Star Strike, 1 on the middle line drops at the start of 2, and then 2 on your original deployments drop at the start of 3. Now, this does have a different scoring mechanic, and this also lets us introduce prime objectives. All of the objectives in this one are prime objectives, meaning they cannot be destroyed, so you cannot remove these with the seismic shift rule from Ghur. And the victory points in this one is way different, which is you score a number of victory points equal to the number of the current battle round for each objective you control. So this one does encourage you to still spread big. It absolutely favors the late game and summoning armies and people who can just suddenly show up with power projection late in the game. It is very anti-alpha because like an alpha strike doesn't really earn you much if especially people can endure it or chaff you out of it. And it diminishes the value of battle tactics in a big way. Because round 1, all you can get is battle tactics. But like in round 4, every objective is worth 4 points. You know, you're pulling 12 potential points out of the objectives. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's crazy.
12 and 15 in the last 2 rounds. Yes. So it's going to massively skew that way.
Yes. That's basically how this one goes. Here's my take on this one. I don't like this for tournaments. Okay? And I'll tell you why I think that. I think it's a cool enough scenario. I think it's very easy to lose this scenario completely accidentally. Because they're now skewed to the outside edges, which are 30 inches apart.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes, and then that's not even measuring on the hypotenuse, right? I'm just saying like the 2 lines are 30 inches apart. It can become very easy to just like, oops, all berries this scenario. Right? And you know, you can try to set yourself up for success as best you can.
Yeah.
But like, oops, it just didn't roll in my favor. And there's just no way I can get there. And the opponent gets 1 free round or 2 free rounds of scoring it at 3 points and 4 points. And it's like, okay, well, you're just way ahead now.
Yeah, that round 3, round 4 swing is going to be massive with no ability to remove it or really counterplay against it. So I agree. It's comes down to a dice roll. Pretty much so on that.
Yeah, I played a lot of this on TTS last year, and yeah, I've been on both ends of it. Yeah, where they aligned in my favor and they went against me, and it didn't feel like it often felt like it didn't reflect the game we're supposed to be playing. You know, like the generalship and quality of the armies and so on and so forth. Yeah, like it really skewed an advantage. And I mean, that's not always. I started out really loving Star Strike as a kind of an interesting like grudge match round 1 for tournaments, and yeah, I've kind of grown less fond of it. And this one's better, I think, than the prior version. But yeah, I'm not sure either.
Is there value in, just sort of thinking off the top of my head, is there value in the scenario in that it requires you to build a list with multiple centers of power projection that you could deploy on both sides of the board? So you can't just hedge your bets all to one side and have a sort of Death Star bunker build. You've got to have an army that can play across the width of the board.
Yeah, dude, that was one of the reasons. Yeah, I always loved it. Yeah, I mean, like Tom, that you guys always talk about. Yeah, you know, good lists often have 3 centers of gravity, and I don't know if I would think most armies can do that. I mean, even Fire Slayers can deep strike with the little Rune Smiters to do. But yeah, I mean, that's why I liked it always. But I don't know. I've grown less fond of it.
Here's my issue. Yes, of course, and I think it's always good to build lists like that. But something very critical changed between Star Strike and Veins of Ghur, and why I think it really matters here. And that is because in Star Strike it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Right? So you had an equal chance of it being kind of spread out. In this, it is highly likely it's going to end up on one of the 2 sides.
Yeah.
Like 83.3 repeating % chance it ends up on one of the 2 sides. Okay? And it's very hard to your army out when your opponent is also going to be incentivized to do the same thing. Right? And just like there's no way you can be like, unless you just have a very strange force, it's very hard for you to push like this, right? Which is how you almost have to push. So that's why I'm saying, because there's such a distance here and it's so incentivized to fall on these 2 sides, it would be like if the old Star Strike, you know, just almost never landed in the center, right? Because it's just, this is, when they hit like this is such a distance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I was just going through the list and kind of thinking about what kind of armies, yeah, might struggle with this, might do well with it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of other better scenarios. I
I
think is
mean,
what
if
it
you have
comes
like
down to.
ultra high, like probably a great scenario for Slanesh. So I'm sad to say that I don't want to see it in tournaments because like favors the late game and high speed. Okay, I guess that's the one things we got going for us. So that's nice. But there you go.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really curious to get some games in with this. I do worry that's going to feel similar to how Star Strike felt over last year when I played a lot of games, and it was often those games, yeah, when like it would be you'd have the string, like they all ended
Yeah,
up on one side, and
sure.
there's certainly some potential for that, or two end up on the far right, one is on the far left. Maybe you, but even then, I don't know. I feel like I don't have a strong opinion on this one. I need to really see it,
Yep,
kind of get a feel for it.
that's fair.
Yeah.
All
I've
right,
I've got to step away for 2 minutes, and I will be back.
All
sounds
right, cool,
good.
man.
You step away. Okay, and that'll lead us to Savage Gains,
Oh, Chuck Moore scenario, love
the
it.
Chuck Moore special, bro.
All
Do you
right.
even lift? Okay. So this is updated Battle for the Pass or whatever. There's a bunch of different focal points, or there's a bunch of different scenarios like this.
Border War.
Sorry, Border War. Yeah, thank you. That was
Yep.
what I was trying to reach. Like it.
Yep.
The point is, it's the one middle thing. There's been multiple iterations of this type of scenario.
Yep.
This is just the newest version of this. The important part is you have two objectives that you'll basically start out controlling, and just like always, the one on the edge of your territory is worth 1 point to you. The one on the edge of your opponent's territory is worth 4 points. If you control either of the ones in the middle, you get 2 points. Not 2 points for each. Very different. Score 2 victory points if you control an objective that is not on the border of either player's territory.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Uh-huh. It's a
Cheeky little
big
change.
difference.
Yeah. Wow. Oh,
I
wow.
think a lot of people will default to reading it and playing it like old Battle for the Pass or Border War or whatever, where if I grab both middle ones, I get 4 points.
4 points.
You do not. You get 2. Okay?
Yeah, that's huge.
I've already seen somebody describe this thing wrong in a video. So, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Now, so again, the scoring here means that if you never take control of your opponents, then you're both going to sit there and score 3 a turn. And it's going to, point-wise, stroll out exactly the same as the standard scoring method, right? Because you're going to go like boom, boom, they're going to go boom, boom, and we just sit there and and then 5 rounds goes by, right? Okay. Now in practice, if you grab your opponents for 1 turn and they don't, like if they don't get touch yours at all, you are in the money. Like you just basically auto win the scenario. That's it. Right? Because that 4 points is such a big swing.
Sure. And it's always been that way with the scenario, but even more so now.
It's more so now because you can't get 2 and 2 for holding the center.
Yeah.
Right? Because it used to be you would kind of balance that out by I control both the centers, but then you kind of get, and it would be like both the centers are worth your enemy, yada yada, so on and so forth. Not the case anymore. Right? So your actual maximum you can get is 7, but the sort of modal outcome is 3. Right? If you control 1 plus 2 plus therefore you get 7.
What are we on? Savage Gains.
Savage Gains.
Cool.
That's right. And yes, what I was mentioning was you don't get 2 victory points for controlling each one of them. It's not 2 and 2. It's 2 for either. Like if you hold both, you get 2 points. If you hold 1, you get 2 points.
Oh, really? So it's not 9 available for a battle round. It's 7 max.
Score 2 victory points if you control an objective that is not on the border of either player's territories.
There you go. Reading comprehension 101.
There you go. So, and it should be stated that the 2 center ones are prime objectives, which means you can't destroy them. But if you're a buff giant, ooh, you can still get those with those savage gains. You start out controlling yours. You can just be like, boot. I kick it backward. It's not on the border of my territory anymore. It's not worth 4 to you. It's just worth 2.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I'd be
Now-
instantly kicking it out, right?
But here's the trick. Then if you do that...
You turn 1 into 2 as well, right?
No. Here's the problem. If you kick yours off your line right away, then you remove your ability to score 1 and you set your per turn cap at 2. Because now
Correct, because you can't score 3. Yep.
Oh, okay.
You pushed it
There you
into
go.
the score 2
That's
victory
interesting.
points if you control an objective that is not on the border of either player's territory. Meaning if you boot yours backwards, just for a safety play, yes, you remove their ability to get 4, but you shut off your ability to get 3. Because you don't have anything worth 1 point anymore, and it doesn't matter if you control 1, 2, or 3 of the non-borderline objectives, you just get 2 points.
So safety kick it late game in turn 2 or whatever when anyone's close to you.
Correct. And you just take like this is a great one for a take or tribe type of thing, because you're going to leave 1 back to kick, and you're going to push in hard with any other mega worth 30 onto theirs, and just try to snake it for a turn. And once you get their 4-pointer for 1 turn in like 2 or 3, you just safety kick yours backwards, and then they can never get the 4 to catch you.
Yeah. So when I first read this, I saw the prime objectives on each battle plan and just thought that meant categorically all of the objectives cannot be removed, and clearly that's not the case.
No, it is the little special things, the little special symbols.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. Yeah. So a lot of fine prints here.
Yeah. Is there any other mechanic to move objectives other than the sun's kick?
I do not know of anything else in the game right now
Not
that
yet,
moves
right.
an objective.
I don't think so.
No.
That is a very unique piece in its capabilities.
Yeah.
I mean, my answer is I like Savage Gains a lot. I think it's a really interesting one. I have played this one. Somebody said
classic.
if you kick the middle one onto their line, profit. Yes, that is correct. If you kick a middle one,
That's so precise.
like boot, just getting it right on, just Kobe, and you're in. Like then it's 4. That's right. Yes.
Some Australian is going to try that.
Of course. Of course. Somebody's going to get it, and it's going to be amazing. But yeah, so I like Savage Gains. I think this one's really fun. It favors, like I said here in my summary, it favors armies that can split forces. It's great for Sons of Behemoth, and it can yield higher scoring. So
Yeah, it's the quintessential AOS battle plan.
Yeah.
Throughout the game's history. So,
and it's interesting because, like I said, the modal outcome leaves you with the same victory point to battle tactic spread because the center 2 aren't each worth 2. You often end up just going 3 and 3 every round.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I can see this one making its way into a lot of packs.
Yeah. Plus, who doesn't want to say Savage Gains? Come on.
Absolutely.
Get them Savage Gains, bro. All right. Okay. Oh, shifted too many. There we go. Now for my least favorite. Tooth and Nail. I can tell you straight out, I hate this scenario. I hate it. I saw Rob praising this one or whatever, and like Adam praising this one. First of all, you're both crazy. I hate this thing, and I hope this never shows up in a tournament I attend. Okay.
This is new total commitment. Yeah, new total commitment. Okay.
New total commitment.
4 objectives in a square, 2 wholly within each territory, the prime objectives.
Yep.
And then we hate reserves, and we don't like summoning units that can shoot.
Yes.
So, Seraphon and Zinch, we dislike you.
But yeah, you can't summon things. The important part here is just like with total commitment, you cannot keep anything in reserve. I love shutting off allegiance abilities for armies. It's super fun. And then summoned units can't shoot or charge in the turn in which they were added to your army. Now, first of all, if that was just like a rule across AOS, I don't know if I'd hate it. Let me just say that. Okay. I think that might be okay. If that was just like, if summoned things had summoning sickness like magic, fine. I might be okay with it, right?
Sure.
But I hate that rule because it's so uniquely punishing to start like, I get it. Destruction's real good in this edition. Did we really need to just like make a scenario that's called like destruction wins for sure? Don't worry about it. And the thing about this, the other thing I really, really, really despise about this scenario, and this is so simple, but I really freaking hate it. Okay, is keep in mind it's using these bigger Tetris blocks, and you
Mm-hmm.
set up 9 inches away from their territory, which is going to be so fun to map out the 3 stupid semicircles away.
I hate them. I hate them.
And
They're awful.
because every little red square is pushed into by a blue square, so you have to take a little 9-inch arc and be like boop 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 circle and draw this little semicircle and
Yeah.
draw this little semicircle, and so your actual deployment zone looks like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get your protractor out. Nah.
Right.
Yeah, we had some. There was a mission in 2020. We had some of that going on. Forcing the hand had a little bit of that going on.
Yes. Same. I hated setup forcing the hand too.
Yeah.
And I don't like it uses standard scoring other than this. It's a standard scenario. I just I get it. Some people really hate summoning. Fine. I don't disagree with that. This isn't the right way to punish them. This is just I hated it when it was called total commitment. I hate it still now. I don't think it should show up in tournaments. I don't believe it should. If you want to fix those armies, fix those armies. Fix those mechanics. Don't put a jank scenario that they suddenly run across and lose.
Yeah, this is pretty low on my list. I feel like this is going to be one that will get taken out of consideration for the 5 rounds at a tournament pretty quickly.
I hope so. Apparently not if it's Rob or Adam running the tournament, but that's all right.
I mean, what's the positive? Let's be a salesman for this scenario. What any upside here, Dan, that you can see?
It's great for destruction.
It's
Yeah.
anti-Zinch, and we don't like Zinch.
Sure, yeah, exactly. If you really hate Seraphon and Zinch and you're a destruction player, you are loving the scenario. You
I feel
lose
like-
nothing.
I feel like Zinch is, has got plenty kicked in the teeth already outside of Archeon Zinch, so they're probably.
Oh, I think Zinch will still do okay, mate. I don't have much. They're still a strong army.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I'm not a fan of this one.
Yeah. All right. Tectonic interference. Okay. So tectonic interference is just updated shifting objectives. That's all it is. Don't try to play me like it's something else. That's what it is. So tectonic interference uses alpha and beta objectives. They are all prime objectives, so you cannot destroy any of them. This one has an 18-inch deployment, demilitarized zone, an 18-inch DMZ. And each round, at the start of each battle round, before determining who has the first turn, you roll a d3. The objective with the corresponding number is the alpha objective, and the other 2 are beta objectives. I hate that these terms are actually associated with creatures because they're trying to use monster terms, pack terms, like alpha and beta, even though those aren't real. There's no such thing as alpha wolves and beta wolves. That's not a real concept, but whatever. That's just a minor picadillo I have. Social animals are social. They have hierarchies and stuff, but that whatever. Anyways, okay. So yeah, it's shifting objectives, man. I don't know. It favors alpha blocking. Yeah. This is your traditional great if you can alpha block. It's a relatively close thing. If you have a good alpha block army, you just go first, you move forward, you sit on all 3 and go, come kill me, bro.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, I win.
Yeah. Very, very straightforward. Not a whole lot to say about it. It's exactly the same pretty much with battle tactics, grand strategies added in.
Yep. It's just shifting objectives again.
Yeah, it's going to play very similarly. I think shifting objectives was also 18-inch DMC. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 9-inch away from each.
Yeah.
And yeah, not a whole lot to say about this one, I don't think.
Reading this scenario, it reminded me of that Vanilla Ice interview where he was like, no, their song goes da na 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 na, our song goes da na 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 na. It's different, see, because it has
right.
at the end. It's don't try to slip this by on me, okay? Yeah. I see you.
We've got what 5? Dan, you said 3 with 3 objectives, 5 scenarios, 3 objectives, or 4? So yeah, this was on my list. I probably would remove it from consideration.
Yeah. What's everybody's take? My feeling is probably doesn't need to be in the tournament pack.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a terrible scenario, I don't think, but I mean, it clearly favors. I mean, like Unleash, you could do Lumineth with Wardens or
Oh, I
whatever,
mean,
and then
yeah. If
some
you've got an
Unleash
alpha
Hell
block
or
with shooting on the back line, it's like, hey,
yeah.
I hope I hope you've really got some tricks. Otherwise, I win.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
just runs
Which is
into the classic pattern of
Like
the
with Skaven, I drop, go first, move up 60 clan rats and 40 clan rats and 20 clan rats or whatever,
exactly.
and put Thankful and Warfire Throwers behind and just say, come at me, bro.
It,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
fully leans
like,
into the
well, it'll be a fun game.
exactly.
and it,
Yeah.
it just doesn't promote a interactive playstyle
Right,
or game,
right.
really.
Yeah.
Okay, now for one of the most interesting ones in the entire pack. This one is crazy.
We must be on the Vice.
Marking territory.
Marking territory. Okay.
Vice is like it's right up there too. There's two that I really find fascinating: marking territory and Vice. Okay, marking territory. I'm calling it updated knife to the heart.
It is. Yeah.
Okay. I have written in my summary here: knife to the heart is even tougher now. Welcome to your minor victory. Unless your opponent gets caught out, in which case, congratulations. Okay.
Yeah. It's the gotcha scenario.
It's the gotcha scenario. Like, this is, if there was ever something where skill was going to make all the difference and a new player will be like, wait, I lost? Right? Immediately. So, how's this one work? Okay, well, there's no victory points. That's how it works. All right? You win if there are 4 objectives. None of them are prime objectives. That's really important. Starting from the 3rd battle round, one player immediately wins a major victory if they control all of the objectives on the battlefield. However, the important part about that is, if the person going second in the 3rd round, like if you win priority in the 3rd round, and you choose to go second, so you get to remove an objective, and you currently control 3 objectives, you instantly win the game.
Yep. Yep.
So that's good. That's cool. Because you could just be like, that one, the only one you control, it's gone now. I win.
I think this one is going to be first explanation is to think this one is probably a good candidate for a pack. I had these debates over the years with, I feel like you and I had this discussion, Vince.
I've always said knife to the heart should be like game 1.
Yeah.
I should have started out.
I was always huge on Blood and Glory because to me it was a more interesting knife to the heart.
Sure.
And
that would be the other one you could use here, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. It was a lot of minors you would get. It was tough to get a major on that one to get the 4 objectives. This was a little easier, potentially, probably with the 3 going down to 3 if you win that round 3. And yeah, but I think it also could push back a little bit against low model count armies, potentially, relative to higher model count. Like I'm thinking about my game with Night Haunt, where I had 2 cabbages, 10 brutes, 2x3 pigs. So of course, some of that's counting for more models, but I was going up against a lot of Night Haunt.
Sure.
60 chain rasp, etc.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, the game would have just been over because I didn't do enough damage quickly enough in rounds 1 and 2, where if he had won that, he would burn my bottom right, and right there, he wins automatically.
Yep.
And so I could see potentially that happening in a number of games in terms of model count differentiation. But yeah, I really like this one for a pack, even though it does have that kind of inherent gotcha.
It's got the gotcha moment. It's tough. That's what trips me up. Like, I think this one's good for a pack, but boy, is it going to be a sour taste in a new player's mouth. Dan, what do you think?
I try to avoid a sour taste in a new player
Yeah.
at all costs, especially when you're trying to build a scene and you want people to come back to more events.
Yep. Yeah, you're going to have like a dozen people at the tournament who were really pissed that they lost and didn't even realize they were about to lose.
Sure.
Or knew they were going to lose and then just hated the idea that they were going to lose on a dice roll.
The last time they made a choice was at the top of 2, and then they lost.
Yeah.
Right? They went first in round 2. Their opponent took a 3rd objective at the bottom of 2. 1 priority wins the game.
Yep.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's very much potential for that. I need to play it more. I don't know. I'm not sure. Need to play it more.
Yeah, this one's on
Obviously,
the cut line for me.
there's a
Like
lot of potential.
I think it's interesting if you've got a very particular type of tournament, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But it's rough. It's rough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's marking territory. All right. Power struggle. Power struggle is really, really, really interesting. Okay, so once again, we've got a 22-inch DMZ here in the middle. And the way this one works is it uses the standard scoring with some exception. Okay? And the exception is instead of holding it, you have to hold the points for multiple rounds, sort of. Let me explain. Okay? So you score 1 victory point if you have controlled at least one objective for 2 of your turns consecutively. You score 1 victory point if you have controlled 2 or more objectives for 2 of your turns consecutively. You score 1 victory point if you control more objectives than your opponent, but that's it. Not for 2 turns consecutively. So just having more, like, you can get that one in round 1.
Yeah.
Okay? So if you take the middle one and hold it in round 1, or your opponent trades it or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you trade on the middle one back and forth, right? You're just going to go back. Like, if you just spend the whole game yo-yoing the middle objective, you're just going to go back and forth on 3 forever, basically. But in the first round, you'll only get 3 total, and then from round 2 on, you get 5. Your standard 5, assuming you're completing all your battle tactics, right? This one definitely favors anvils. I think, being able to take and hold. I think this one definitely big time empowers the double turn, because on the double you can like take it and then get to the victory points uncontested, right? Like you've held it in one of your turns, then you double. Okay, I did it. I held it for 2 of my turns, right? So it really empowers the double.
So just to start from the top, maybe you explained it and I missed it. What's your guys' understanding of? So
consecutively,
Dan,
is that what you're gonna ask?
Consecutively, yes.
Yeah, I've just getting the book out to check the exact wording of the scoring.
My answer is FAQ.
Sure.
Yeah, because the point being, can my opponent take it from me and then I take it back?
Yes.
And now I have held it for 2 of my turns consecutively, but I did not hold it continuously.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Those are 2 separate words with 2 separate meanings, right?
And also, does at least one objective for 2 of your turns consecutively, does that mean, does it have to be the same objective? Presumably that is the intention. Right. But on that wording, all you've got to have is have held one objective, a minimum of one objective for 2 turns.
Yeah, I held this one. Yeah.
I held this one, and then I held this one, and so I've held at least one objective for 2 turns consecutively.
Right. When it seems like the intention is I held this one, I sat on it, like my reading of their intention is I sit there, I hold it, I won't move. In my next turn, I hold it again, I score it. Like that feels like what they were going for. But boy, does this come short of that.
You think they were going for continuously through your opponent? If you go top of 1, your opponent, you hold it. Your opponent goes bottom of 1. They take it. You're saying that was not the intention. If you then reclaim it, okay.
Again, I mean, with reading intent is always a dangerous game, right? But yes, that's absolutely how I read it. I mean, just again, you have to look at things like the flavor text. And it's like they refuse to fall back to resupply. Right. They must commit everything they have to secure new ground. Okay, that tells me this is about holding, right?
Yes. Same objective and consecutively, not different objectives or same objective lost and then recaptured.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we needed stronger wording clarification in that hold your ground section, where they explain what the heck that means, right? They needed to explain, does that mean same objective and continuous? Right? That was the wording we needed in there.
Yeah.
So my answer on this one is, if it gets ruled like that, I think this one is a cool one for tournaments. That is like, if we get the proper clarifications and we all understand how this plays, I think a standard 5 objective setup like this is a fun way to go. I like the distance. I like classic 5, X
Yeah, this
objective
was
scenarios.
focal points last year. Yeah.
I agree. This one is one that is going to be heavily skewed towards battle tactics.
Yes.
In terms of available points.
Yep.
Because a lot of people will not hold an objective for 2 turns continuously, or might only do 1. So you're going to be rarely getting the full 3
Right.
from objectives. So this one's going to be one that will be very skewed towards battle tactics.
Yep. Agreed.
And I think it's good to have at least one of those in the pack.
Yep. Agreed. My only concern is it does empower the double turn, but again, that's okay. Just be aware of that, and it's an interesting thing.
So. Sure.
The Vice. Oh. Tyler, you can be the Tubbs to my Crockett any day, because let me tell you what, it's time to hit that Miami Vice. So somebody played Fortnite or PUBG or whatever,
100%,
and thought, wouldn't that be cool as a Warhammer scenario? So the way this one works is it uses completely standard deployment, with the exception that this has the largest DMZ. It's the horizontal deployment with a 12-inch DMZ. Okay.
Oh, right. Our only
24 inches apart. Yep.
The only 24.
The only 24.
It's the only one left. And the way it works is you start with objectives way out in the corners. Okay, way up here. I love having a rectangular screen so I can do this, right? And then at the start of the second battle round, they move in. What was it? 18.6 inches, right? That's the hypotenuse, yeah? So they move in 18.6 inches here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then at the start of the fourth battle round, but there's still 4 objectives. They're just closer. At the start of the fourth battle round, there's 1 objective left.
Yeah.
It cuts down to 1 being on the center point of the board. Okay. Now, that 1 in the center is a prime objective. I think they're all prime objectives, actually.
They're all prime
They're all
objectives.
primes. You can't remove any of them. I love this one. This uses this, standard scoring. It's going to push toward an eventual scrum in the middle, but in the late game when you're already sort of exhausted. I find this one fascinating for the challenges it offers armies of, like, who's sitting back and towing in on holding the back ones when they're in the back corner, way up here.
Yeah.
Do you have enough deck chair sitters? Do you have deck chair sitters that can withstand Shadow Stonkers teleporting over and, like, trying to slice your objective out from under you? I am fascinated by this scenario. I love the Vice. I want this in every tournament I play in. I'm in like Flynn for this one.
Yeah, both corners, your army stretched. The scorings, you can score 2 VP on round 1. Then you might get 3 VP for round 2 because you've got to cross the board to be able to contest one of your opponent's 2. That also might be 3 VP for round 3. And then you're going to go back down to 2 VP for round 4 and 5.
Yep.
Because you've only got 1 objective.
Right. And if you hold the 1, you hold 1 and more than your opponent, who would then have 0. Yes.
Yeah.
I love this scenario. I love the way it plays with the basic structure of the 1/1/1. It's so clever in what it's doing there. I love the way it wants your armies to move, to spread, to be in different places at different points in the battle. Like, yes, it is empowering, I think, of things like teleporters and stuff like that. I do think that is true.
Yep.
But that has counterplay, right? Like, you can counterplay that stuff. And I think that makes for an interesting game. I love the Vice. You're on the island. This scenario gets a rose. Absolutely.
Yeah, I played it once, but it was Suns and Iron Jaws, and we just had a classic destruction
You
standoff.
just ran into the middle and smashed each other.
It's just
Who's
the
who's
classic
gonna pull the
crumping in
trigger
the
first?
middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So,
great.
I mean, it was nice because obviously we didn't have any I guess I did have Hand of Gork. I was cheating. I had some teleport, but I was thinking, before the start of the first battle round, of course, now we are scoring. So we take control, which is interesting. So we can move away in round 1. So, yeah, we did that in that matchup. But yeah, we ended up pulling I pulled the trigger in round 3 before we got to round 4. So never even got to the scrum in the middle. But yeah,
Nice. Yeah, love the Vice.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Anything else you want to say on this one? I think we're good.
I hope it's as good as it looks.
Yeah, I haven't got to play this one yet. I'm quite excited to.
Mm.
Now to one I have played. Apex Predators, or also known as Places of Arcane Power, or the Three Things, or leaders are important, so have leaders.
Yep.
So it uses this little square box thing. This one's easier. I don't mind this 9-inch thing because I only have to set up one 9-inch bubble across the center.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. That's total conquest setup there.
Yeah, classic setup. This one's fine. So the only way you take objectives is if a friendly leader unit finishes a move other than a retreat move within 3 inches of an objective, and there's no other enemy leader within 3 inches of it, or if you kill a leader who's on it and you're within 3 inches of it, then you gain control of it.
Kill it with a melee weapon.
Yep, with a melee weapon. Yes, that's right. That is very important. And once you gain control of it, it remains under your control until your opponent gains control of it, until there is no friendly leader within, or there is no friendly leader within 3 inches of it. In other words, this one you cannot walk away from. Right.
Or,
Right.
well, you can walk away as long as you've got another leader there.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's
So you can have your combat hero come along, take control of the objective, and then wander off to get another one, as long as you've got a support hero that's going to stand on the
because
objective.
it's not. Remember, it's the player who controls the model who contests. Right. That being the key. So you can have 2 heroes move up. You're absolutely right. Combat hero smashes, support hero holds, because it just says you lose it if there's no friendly leader within 3 inches.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
My point is you can't abandon it, right? You can't leave it empty.
Correct.
You will, like you can with normal objectives.
You got to babysit.
You got to babysit it with somebody. Other than that, it uses standard scoring. 1/1s, standard breakdown. Yeah, I like this one. I've always liked the leader scenario. I've always liked 3 Places of Arcane Power. I think it's cool. It does incentivize models that are already pretty good in this edition. That is to say, leaders are already pretty potent. You're already having heroes and hero monsters do a lot of really good stuff and be really powerful pieces in winning you the game. So the only thing that would hold me off on saying it should be in tournament packs is that you're already going to have leader monsters showing up everywhere. So
yeah,
do we really need more incentive for them? I don't know.
Yeah. Do we need to reward Kaiju Hammer more than we sort of currently are?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's my basic take as well. I wouldn't personally include this one. I think we've got plenty of incentive. It's not really fulfilling a meaningful purpose, I don't think, in GHB 21 at least. I think it often could lead to better game. In my experience with Place of Arcane Power over the years, most of the games were pretty good. Like the Fear, Double Marathi, or whatever, or getting shut off, all your heroes getting shut off. I don't know, at least in the however many dozens of experiences, it never happened for the most part. They were always really intriguing games, but I just don't know if we need this time around.
Well, and now, like I said, I think you've got Marathi, you've got Immortal Archaon, you've got there are just heroes in the mix here that I'm not sure it's you already are going to include them. They're no-brainers. So again, do we just need to have you rock up? And at the same time, you're going to have armies that have 2 6-wound heroes.
Sure.
So it's okay, I guess they just get to lose,
Yeah,
So-
and there certainly can be sort of alpha bunker orientation to this, and certain matchups where you get the choice to go first, and you happen to have 3 hero monsters that are on a 3-up base save, and maybe a ward thrown around. But you're probably going to be pretty good to hang on at least 2 of those for a little while. So I think it could be a lot of advantage in going first in this one.
We've got. You look at the core battalions, and we've got a lot of incentive to take those smaller support heroes. So this is going to favour the smaller support heroes that'll come in. But as we've said, you want your big smashy hero monster.
You only need one big smash to go and do the dirty business, and then you
have your 5 other running around.
Yeah, exactly. I played against Sylvaneth. I did play this one. I played against Sylvaneth with my Skaven. I promptly assassinated all three of their heroes,
right.
and then won the game. That was it was a pretty straightforward solution.
Right.
Bang bang went the Skaven shooting, and then I won the game. That was pretty much that one. So, there we go. Okay, survival of the fittest. Yet again with this absolute nonsense deployment structure that I hate. This one's so silly. Can I just
the diagonal teeth formation.
Yeah, like, first of all, I hate that this one is like silly on top of silly. Okay, here's how this one works. It has that annoying thing we talked about before, as far as like I have to draw my little teeth for deployment. It's again 9 inches. But then we also have this new mini game we get to play called Top of the Food Chain. After armies have been set up, but before determining who has the first turn in the battle round, each player pick 3 different friendly units on the battlefield, starting with the attacker. These units are your predator units for the battle. So it uses completely normal scoring, except you also get a bonus victory point for each enemy predator unit that was destroyed by a friendly predator unit during that turn. So you're trying to orchestrate these specific clashes where your 3 dudes kill their 3 dudes, and then there's like this sort of tete-a-tete at the beginning where you're like, if they've got Archeon, you're not picking anybody who's going to fight at all. You just pick like 3 things that'll hide at the back of the board.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Little...
And you never get in the fight. You're just like, well, we're just, none of us are ever getting those.
Right. Right.
So you get this weird mini game happening of like, who can pre-plan this the best, or who can get their exact chess pieces into place, and whatever.
Yeah, I love the concept of it. Yeah, I worry exactly as you said that it's in terms of it's just incentives gone wrong. It feels like there's a lot of potential for that. This is the other one. This is what's the other one? First Blood. These are very similar, and I would just go First Blood in a pack. But I don't know. What do you think, Dan?
Yep.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like this one has this extra minigame layer that's just kind of silly. And I'm like, it's not going to... I know how they pictured it in their head when they wrote it.
It's a cool... Right? I think it's a really cool idea.
Sure. They were like, people are going to pick like 3 aggressive units and 3 other aggressive units, and we'll have monster fights like in Ghur. And in my head, I'm like, no. I am going to defensive pick and pick 3 things that I think are never going to fight, and I'm going to stay way out of the fight, and I'm going to hide and deny my opponent those victory points, right? And I'm just going to kill their predators outright so that way they never stand a chance to score it.
I mean, that's kind of interesting, like distraction pieces. You know, it's a little bit like, sort of how we picked objectives and forcing the hand, where you can, set up you're setting up bait. It's not... Sure. Yeah. So we're playing a bait game.
Now,
I think
let me say this.
A lot of times.
I wouldn't be against this one in a tournament pack. If this one showed up, I'm not sad. It's a silly mini game, but I like mini games, so it's like it's fine. It's silly but fine.
The other thing to note with this is that there's no prime objectives.
Yes.
For this one, and it is 3 objectives, so you can quickly get down and sort of skew towards battle tactics again.
Yep.
Sorry, I was also I was jumping ahead to the end where I was writing down the 5 scenarios that I would pick.
I like it. You're ahead of the game.
No, I'm just doing my homework.
Appreciate it.
Anticipating the question.
All right. So yeah, this one's like a border for me of like, if it's in there, fine, but I don't need it, is what I'm saying. It's not like the Vice where I want to see it in every pack ever, no matter what, period, end of story. Please put it in there. Thank you. And I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And like I said, it's just the fact that it's so similar to First Blood. And I love
Which I think is just a very strong scenario to include. You need a First Blood in there because you need something that isn't breaking your brain. First Blood is like a great game 1. It's a great game 1. We're all warming up. Everybody's settling in. It's early morning on a Saturday. Everybody was up too late drinking before the tournament. Get some First Blood. It gets a good warm up, right? Like you need that kind of cadence in a tournament. So, okay, Feral Foray. So this one is interesting to say the least. This is your new sort of like I get to destroy enemy objectives scenario.
Scorched Earth, new Scorched Earth.
Yeah, basically, sure. There's only 6 scenarios or 6 objectives, right? But yes.
Yeah.
So 3 and 3, they are 30 inches apart from each other. The DMZ is 18 inches, right? So 9 inches from each side of the line. Lots of space here to set up things like faction terrain, huge territories, great for all those things where you're trying to pop in behind, be in opponent's territory. All those things are great in this one because there's lots of room for activities in this one.
Yeah.
From the start of the second battle round, after you score victory points, you can raid one objective that you control that is wholly within your opponent's territory and is within 1 inch of a friendly unit. If you do so, you score 1 additional victory point. That is after you scored. That is the point. So so when you're counting your do I have 1, do I have 2, do I have more, you do that first, then you make this choice to burn it. Okay? And if you do so, bonus 1. But then that objective is removed. You cannot raid more than 1 objective per turn, so very clear cadence there as to how you'd want to do this and how you want to push.
Good change.
Absolutely. This can be one of those scenarios where it's very difficult to break the line. It is one of the, it's tied for the largest number of objectives. The turn 3 objective remove matters a lot here, because none of these are prime. And, it's often, you might be in sort of a stalemate, kind of pushing, and then that turn 3 ends up being the thing that sort of tilts it in one way or another if no one's really managed to get in hard and burn yet, right?
Yeah.
Dan, what are your thoughts on Feral Foray?
I like it.
Yeah.
I do like it for that consideration. And you can see yourself going into the opponent's objectives, raiding, burning, depriving them of that one, and then sort of going back to yours. So no, I think it's an interesting one. I sort of, when I was going through my set of 5 that I'd picked for a pack, this one for me is paired with power in numbers.
Meaning you would pick one of the two, or you'd pick
one
both?
of these two. So I've got my 4 other choices, and then I pick one of these two.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably leaning towards power in numbers over Feral Foray. But I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts.
Good.
Yeah, I think I would too, for witches, because I couldn't stand Better Part of Valor with the battle line orientation, and now it really stands out as probably the reason you want power numbers in a pack. Is that the name? Whichever one has the battle line. Okay,
Power numbers is the battle line, which we'll get to.
I think I'd lean that direction. But I like both of these. Yeah, shifting
Agreed.
objectives always a nice classic, and a couple nice little changes. Yeah.
I have gotten to play this one. I quite liked this one. It was very fun. The turn 3 objective thing mattered a ton because I pushed and they burned, and it basically stayed even. They removed, I burned. Sorry, and it was the world kind of balanced, right? And it fell back into balance. So it was funny how much that turn 3 seismic shift mattered there, and I could see that happening a lot.
And you want that in a scenario somewhere in the pack where it's not leading to the feel bad that we talked about, the sort of new knife, instant loss scenario.
Right.
So you want seismic shift to have an impact in a scenario which isn't going to instant win, where you're then going to see that play out the consequences in over 3, 4, and 5.
Agreed, and that's what happens here so beautifully, right? Because you have to really then think about removing objectives and when you're burning your opponent's objectives and how that's going to fall with seismic shift, and are you end up there are going to be people who screw themselves by burning objectives. Absolutely, that will happen.
And you gotta love that, right? There's nothing that teaches you better than I should have done that.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of power in numbers, only slight difference is that in the setup is that this is 22-inch DMZ instead of a 18-inch DMZ, but otherwise quite similar. Still 6 objectives, still horizontal deployment. The big difference in this scenario, 2 big differences. I mean, this scenario is very, very different, actually. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get to them. 1. The backbone of success. If there are any battle line units within 6 inches of an objective, then only models from battle line units can contest the objective. Or if you're play 40k, you've got OBSEC. That's what this is. It's just battle line units have OBSEC.
We're assuming this is battle line if as well.
Yeah,
I'm assuming.
Battle line if isn't a thing. It's just battle line.
It's just battle line, right?
It's just you become battle line.
Become battle line.
The the thing that I find interesting about this is someone is going to screw themselves over because the opponent will have 5 models on an objective, non-battle line. You will then move up your non-battle line unit to take it, might have 10 models or whatever, and you leave one of your battle line chaff models within the 6-inch zone. And so that's the only one that counts. You've got 1 versus 5 or whatever, and you get your numbering screwed, and you tie yourself up in knots.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It isn't that. Yeah, it's like this. This is worth mentioning and drilling in on for a second. The wording of this is not if the battle line unit controls, right?
No.
It's
just a test, right?
It's if there are any battle line units within 6 inches of an objective, period. Okay? Like, you could have 1 battle line guy towing in within 6 inches.
Yeah.
Okay? And you're actually controlling it with a completely different thing, right? You've got a monster there worth 5 and 1 battle line dude. Okay.
Yeah.
The
other thing that you can do is this could be a long battle line unit from your army that is contesting an objective over here and is denying an opponent over there.
Yes.
Because you are triggering the rule about only battle yarn units being able to do it. Because your battle line unit doesn't have to be contesting the objective that it's turning off.
Yep.
You can be contesting another objective and you just stop the other person gaining.
Correct. Like, let's take the Skaven example since I've run it so many times.
Yep.
60 clan rats. They can still go 30 long easily in a very safe way, right? You can just do your standard 2 ranks of 30. That you can stretch that across all 3 of those objectives. No drama llama. Easy peasy, right? You run them right along behind the line. Now, they can only contest one of those objectives. Because
I was just checking that.
Yeah,
yes.
you can only contest one.
Unit can only contest
so
one.
my rats are spread out across all 3. They're only contesting the left one. Okay, that's it. They're giving me contest and control of the left one. But their mere presence standing behind the other 2, okay, means that anything in my opponent's army that isn't battle line can no longer contest my objectives.
Yep.
Because I don't... The wording is, if there are any battle line units within 6 inches of an objective,
Lord.
then only models from battle line units can contest that objective.
Okay, I hate it. It's out.
Okay.
I love it. How many armies have battle line units that you are sending across the board to contest an opponent's? Not every one. So many ones your hammer unit or whatever you're throwing across the board is not battle line. Right. So it's a really good defensive play, as Finn says.
Yes. And the important part is, keep in mind, that goes for you as well. Only your battle line can contest as well. However, okay, if you just started the game by having control of all 3 of yours with anything, all right, then you have control of them.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't need to contest anymore at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you start your rats or whatever, it's easy because you gain control pre-game now. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
And you just shut off their entire ability to do it. Or you could just have, you get whatever. You get the point. Right?
Yeah.
It just, says, hey, all the rest of that crap in your army does nothing.
Yeah. Beast Claw Raiders don't care about this.
Right. Again, Beast Claw, Suns, blah, 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 right? Yeah. Iron Jaws. Iron Jaws contest with Battle Line all the time. The only thing in their army that they contest that isn't Battle Line is the Mega Boss on Maw Crusher, right? And he's just going in to pick up bodies while 3 pigs follow behind to do the actual work to contest the objective.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and then the other big thing to talk about here, that one's it's so crazy, Tyler, the layers on this one, right?
Yeah, I completely missed that. Yeah, that nuance.
It's a fun one.
I mean, joking aside, I think I
will play this wrong.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna now I'm really gonna have to try this. I think I still like it, but it's
we haven't even talked about the scoring for this,
right? Which is also crazy.
We've only talked about the objective rules.
Yeah.
All right, so the scoring, standard battle tactics, 2 points. That's true across all of them. There's nothing that deviates from that. And then starting from the second battle round, at the end of each of your turns, or the player's turns, right? The player can destroy one or more of the objectives they control in order to score the following victory points. If you gained control of the objective this turn, 1 victory point. If you controlled it in your last turn, it's 2, then 2 turns, 4, and then the whole game, 8. That basically being the point, right? So, obviously, you're incentivized to, like, hold on, right, to these things. So, yeah, I would call this the new better part of Valor, right, obviously.
Yeah.
So, but with this battle line kicker.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. This one's super interesting. This
throwing a
one is
grenade
some
in the
high
monster
level
party.
play.
Yeah.
Separate the wheat from the chaff, as it were, right? Because
Yeah.
knowing how to structure your army, how to use your battle line effectively, and knowing when to hold them, when to fold them, when to walk away, and when to run.
Yep. And it stops 3x5 min battle line and a whole range of other things. And it incentivizes that battle line unit and gives them some benefit in a hero hammer meta. Outside the sort of suns and stuff, but I like it. It would be in a pack for me.
Because summon doesn't, summon doesn't count as battle line, of course. So it's
correct.
Yeah,
summon units don't count.
It's a grenade and a huge monkey wrench, and it seems like maybe an auto include, honestly, at these tournaments. But to try to shake things up, push against what we have so many incentives going in the other direction.
Agreed.
Yep.
Totally agreed. Okay.
Cool.
So I have my summary here. I'll do that, and then let's talk about our winners, and we'll call it a night.
Yeah.
The average number of objectives in this pack is smaller, 5 of the 12 of prime objectives, as I talked about. The fundamental structure of the scenario scoring is incentivizing you to spread out less. Talked about that already. Battle tactics are really important in some scenarios where they are 66% of the score you get from objectives, or more, or equal if you count the monster bonus, right? And in some scenarios, they really cannot matter at all, other than as deciding the minor. Because some of them, the score can run so far beyond what battle tactics can gain you. It's crazy.
Oh, God, we haven't even talked about... I guess we'll have to save the whole tournament scoring system conversation for another night.
We'll save that for the future.
Yeah.
That's more like how do we run tournaments, I think, is in that. But yes, there's that could be a whole show on its own.
Yeah.
Right? And I have my final point, and I said it earlier. I think more games will end in a draw. There you go. So, Dan, your 5. What are you picking? What do you think your winners are? Or what's your pick list, at least?
So my pick list. So my 5 are First Blood, Savage Gains, Power Struggle, The Vice, and Power in Numbers.
Love it. Love it.
For my 5.
Yep.
With sort of Feral Foray and Survival of the Fittest around the outside. But those are my first 5.
What were you picking on the outside, Dan?
Feral Foray,
Foray.
and Survival of the Fittest.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have a strong preference for my first 5.
I literally completely agree with that list. I am exact 5. That is the exact 5 I had.
Yeah. I've got 4 out of the 5 so far. I'm trying to decide whether Power Struggle is the 5th or if it's something else.
I mean, I think if you weren't going to pick Power Struggle, you'd pick Feral Foray.
Feral Foray is the score.
Because it's the other 6 objective scenario that encourages sort of the horizontal push and, kind of like, and has a lot of like that clever counterplay potential there.
And trading and not prime objectives, and so you get the benefit of the whatever we call the stealing objective rule.
Yeah, the seismic shift, being able to play
seismic shift. Yeah.
Yeah, to me it's like I agree with you. The reason I think Power in Numbers is such a strong inclusion is because it does push and incentivize good battle line, which is something that doesn't like it's good. Like, don't get me wrong, look, big units are still big units. They're still the best thing in the game, right? Like, I mean, let's be honest with ourselves here.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of incentive now to heroes and monsters. But it's good to have one of the 5 actually then still bring that incentive back up and say, hey, people using big units and not just pure MSU the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's something where you have a strength.
Yep, and use that reinforced unit. this is a scenario where you're going to be getting maximum bang from the buck from that reinforced unit that you have in your sort of mixed arms list that you have built for this tournament.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or if you're sons, you just walk around.
Or if you're sons, you get it all, baby. You get it all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
I think for power struggle is probably that fifth spot for me. So yeah, we're either all onto something, we're all idiots.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah. Those feel about right though.
Yeah. I was going to say.
Yeah, good.
So, I was just going to say, conscious you just sort of said you're 5 as well, Vince. So hopefully not cutting you off. But on that tournament scoring point, now that we have got clear win-loss draw and more draws, we're going to need ways to separate.
Yep.
And the question for me is, do you determine that on the basis of battle tactics? So people that just get the most battle tactics over the course is going to be the next sort. And that is effectively double counting the benefit of battle tactics. So if you're good at getting battle tactics, then you're going to do well in the overall event. Or are you going to go for VP differential, say? And so VP differential is going to be the sorting point. So incentivizing you to win more, whether it is by objectives or battle tactics. So you still get the benefit of battle tactics because you're running up the score in round 4 and round 5 in order to maximize that differential.
Yeah, I'm really unsure on this one. I don't like the 20-0 system, right? Which is sort of a not pure VP. It's like a VP differential, and then you pin it to a set score, so 20-0, the classic 20-0 system, right? Like how much you win by set your basis on a 20-0 system. I know some people in 40K in the States just use raw VP counts.
Yeah.
Right? So like whatever it is in 40K tourneys, I think that's probably fine. I've always been a fan of just using strength of schedule throughout the tournament to continue determining, and Magic Swiss uses strength of schedule pretty heavy, and I think strength of schedule has always been the best decider. Like I think we should use strength of schedule more.
Yeah, strength of schedule does a great job. It drives you to particular tournament software in order to calculate it normally.
This is absolutely true.
And the thing I was going to say about the 40K scoring is just pure VPs removes that element of denying your opponent. So in AOS 2, we had the strong benefit of getting points for denying your opponent's secondaries.
Right.
Now, the only benefit of denying your opponent that is the sort of overall win is making sure you win on VPs, right?
Right.
If you kept it at VP differential, then you're incentivizing you to deny your opponent and maximize your own scoring.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, this is probably worth a whole show in its own, and I don't think we'll solve it. I think there's lots of different options. I will say this, my classic answer and what we always did, with Dave at NashCon was we set up schemes, right, which were sort of these built-in secondaries that very much felt like battle tactics, and we used those very much as the decider, right, because you had to complete your thing and then your scheme, and they were scored separately, and then the score totals together, and yada yada. I don't think you could do that anymore. Because there's already so much going on, I just don't think there's enough room for another thing to be doing.
No, you're not going to add additional layers onto all of the things that we're tracking.
We're at cap. This is it.
Yeah.
Right. Like this is as complicated as I'd ever want the game to get. So we've got to figure out how to do it with whatever's here.
I think, to me, this is kind of pressing because I know multiple TOs who are actively considering adding additional layers of essentially secondaries and tertiaries. And that seems like a bad idea in general to me.
There's so many things to be tracking and thinking of during the game.
Especially in a brand new edition when there's so much to already you don't have internalized yet. Like, come on. No way I would say that's the right answer right now. Please leave that crap at the door. Like, you're just going to break your players' brains. All you're then doing is just getting, the person who wins is the person who forgets less. Everybody's going to forget a ton of stuff. It's just who happened to forget less. Right? It's just not needed. I think that, my rough answer right now would be just use a basic VP run. Just total the VPs for now. Because we don't... And then later we can agree on if we want to do a point differential and what does the 20-0 look like.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we could get there, and or if you want to experiment with that, fine.
Yeah, I'm a big
But
fan
it'd
of
be one of
that.
those
Like,
two systems
yeah,
to just
Yeah.
just start with
So
the
you
basics and run it out.
Yeah, you wouldn't have to move to a 20-0. You can just take sort of VP scored minus VPs given up to opponents, and take so sort of goal difference analogy from football. Um,
yeah, big fan of that. Yeah, Vince beats me by 1 point. I don't want him getting 20 and me nothing. That's no fun.
Yeah, exactly. So like yeah, probably a whole show. I think what we do is
Yeah,
we trot it out and like let some TOs experiment and see where it goes from there. That's the right answer.
sure.
Yep.
And my thought is anybody who tries to add additional layers onto this, it's going to fail miserably, especially in these first 2 months. Like I can't be more blunt with people, right? Like there's already too much going on in this game, folks. At the moment, like you're going to break everybody's poor brains. All right, gentlemen, I think we did it.
Absolutely.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, folks. Well, Dan, thank you so much. As Brian S. just said, we appreciate you being the hot nerd who comes on the show. He said that when every time he watches, his wife sees him watching and asks if the hot nerd is on. I think that's very apropos. You're definitely bringing up the overall average of hotness on this channel, so we appreciate that, Dan. Thank you very much.
I love how much we objectify Dan in the AOS community. It must feel good, Dan. We love
Can we
you.
wrap it up? Can we move on?
Yes,
As
sir.
I sit here awkwardly.
Absolutely. No, Dan, in all seriousness, thank you so much for coming on, brother. I really appreciate it. It's great. This was a great discussion. I was very glad to have you on again. We will, of course, have Dan back again in the future. Don't forget AOS Shorts. It'll be linked down below. All that information you can find there. Don't forget about the events list we talked about at the top. That is linked down below as well. To all of you out there watching, thank you so much. This weekend's a big weekend. We'll hope like I said, if the preview show is good enough, we'll do a little pickup and talk about that when we get our Stormcast tanks to ride alongside our Stormcast chariots. I can't wait. Or our Dragon Riders. To all of you out there, thank you. Don't forget to hit like. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Please do all that fun stuff. We really appreciate it. It's so easy. It's just clicking a little tiny button, and it means the world to me. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. As always, we'll see you next Wednesday.